Over the past year, we traveled the country visiting American farms, and something great came of it. All because Reagan and Massey gave farmers a platform to share the history, the business, and the people that together have created their farm's identity. This project has uncovered the reality of what many farms in the country have to go through, and it's been long overdue. With our country losing an average of 28,000 farms a year, what better of a time to tell the stories than now? So we'd like to thank you for joining us on our travels and inviting these farmers into your living room, just as they have done for us.
So excited to be partnered with Farms of America, Reagan and Massey, in that great docu-series that we'll continue to highlight over the coming weeks and months. We are talking tonight about Iowa's 37-0 victory over the Wisconsin Badgers. And I'm joined, as always, by none other than Coach Don Patterson, who is with us. Don, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I am doing good. It's good to see your face. And let's make sure we are okay. We're having a little bit of an issue with our stream to Twitter, so we'll try to get that fixed. In the meantime, we're live here on YouTube for our Voice of College Football followers and, of course, our followers here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And in a very special fashion, we are joined by former Hawkeye defensive lineman Matt Kroll. Matt.
Thanks, Corey. Hey, easy one to be a part of tonight, 37-0. So
isn't it? I was going to say it.
I'm with it, man.
Before I launched this show, I'm like, man, first of all, haven't shut out Wisconsin and Madison. I think the number was, did anybody catch that? Was it like 1968 or something like that?
No, 1929.
96 years ago.
Okay, I gave Wisconsin too much credit there. I gave Iowa too much credit. 1928. Is that what you just said? 1928?
29 or 28.
9, okay.
29.
Transpose the numbers. Incredible. 37-0 victory over Luke Fickell's Badgers. So much to get to. But, of course, before we get to this, Matt, first time on this show, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for joining us, taking the time late night here in Iowa. For anybody that's not familiar, you and your family's farm was featured on episode 1 of Farms of America, which is, again, an absolutely slam dunk docuseries. If anybody's not been able to catch at least part of that documentary, certainly check it out over on YouTube, Reagan and Massey's YouTube channel. It's linked in our description. You can also find it over on the Cowboy channel as well as on RFD TV and Amazon Prime. So before we get into the football aspect of things, Matt, I want to ask you a question related to this show because that's why you're here primarily. I guess, what's life been like since you graduated from Iowa, so to speak, and you had your stint with the New York Jets, and now you're on the family farm? Tell us a little bit about life as a part of Kroll Farms.
Sure thing. Yeah, no, getting old, man. Turned 40 this winter. So when you start having 20-year reunions for Big Ten championship teams, you're getting up there in age. But no, life's good. I got 4 young kids. My wife, Nicole, we live here in Solon, Iowa. So we're just 10 minutes from Iowa City. And been farming now 13 years since I was done with the Jets in 2012. So, it's been good. And was asked a couple years ago by Reagan and Massey to be a part of this docuseries. We filmed that episode 2 years ago, literally this week. And so it's been great kind of seeing what they put together and the way they did it and the farms that they visited the first season, which season 2 is starting. They already started filming season 2. Season 1 was great. And, they did a great job of just portraying agriculture in the country and a positive manner in a natural way that hopefully people can understand and learn some things too.
Tell me a little bit about the history of Kroll Farms, because for people that haven't watched the show, and I told you, maybe I didn't tell you, I told Joey Bruner, our good friend up at Media Stash in Wisconsin, who's a big part of the production team there with Reagan and Massey and Farms of America. I was telling him I watched your episode this week because I wanted to have it fresh in my mind. And I know my wife was crying during part of it. So that's a testament not just to your story, but also to the production team and Reagan and Massey and everything that's been put into Farms of America. But tell us a little bit about the history of Kroll Farms and how far this legacy goes back.
Yeah, so it's been in the family since mid-1860s. That last name was Wolf, so it was my grandma's family who kind of settled there, and we're right next to the Cedar River in Mount Vernon, Iowa. Just 20 minutes from Iowa City as well. And then mid-1950s is when my grandpa Howard married my grandma Lizzie, and it's been the Kroll name ever since. So I'll be the 3rd generation Kroll farming that land and there, and we do all sorts of stuff. We're the normal Iowa farm, corn and soybeans, and we run about 150 head of beef cows. But after the farm crisis of the 80s, early 90s, my parents kind of started diversifying into some different things: sweet corn, tomatoes, pumpkins. And now today we do flowers, annuals, and perennials in the spring. We run a CSA program, so we deliver vegetables to families to the doorstep all summer. Pumpkins is our biggest attraction going on right now in October. Great fall day today around there. So then we sell firewood all year. So we kind of hit every facet of agriculture, just trying to maximize, the acres that we have. And it's been great community support for us, being 15 minutes from Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. Everyone's always been really good about supporting the farm.
Do you identify more as a football player now or more as a farmer?
I think farmer. But you missed the football, man. You'll remember this name, Mike Humple. Mike Humple and I, we had a little Spartan Super Bowl showdown today for 3rd and 4th grade flag football. So 7-on-7 flag football. He was the championship offensive coordinator and I was the D coordinator. And the final score, my team won. It was 52-45. So I failed as a D coordinator today, but Humple did okay. Mike did okay as an O coordinator, but I failed definitely as a D coordinator. But we won. So
I was going to say Phil Parker might be, Norm or Phil would both be ashamed of that number, 45.
They would not be happy. Don't break. We broke quite a bit, but we came out at the end.
And good stuff. Well, I'll tell you, a team that didn't break defensively tonight was Iowa's defense. And, of course, Don, I don't want to shut you out of this as well. And I want to circle back around to the connection with Hayden Fry's staff and A&F. And, there's such a cool chain effect here, I guess, or spider web, if you will, of connections with Iowa football and farming, of course, in this country and in the state. But let's transition a little bit to Iowa and their 37-0 victory over Wisconsin. That's why we're here this evening. What a dominant win. And when I've talked about this in recent shows, Don, and you and I have talked about it since Luke Fickell took over there. It's been quite a struggle for them in a number of facets. They have not been the Wisconsin that we're used to seeing under Paul Chryst, Gary Anderson, Barry Alvarez, Brett Bielema. Those teams were, first of all, predicated up front and built by guys like guy on your right, Matt Kroll. And they're better up front defensively than they are on offense. They had spurts there in the run game tonight where they were decent. But, boy, the turnovers killed them. And, yes, they're struggling at quarterback right now. They have issues with health. Billy Edwards is out with an injury. The turnovers just killed them tonight. Don, it was a snowball effect. We're going to get to all the positives that we saw with Iowa, but I know there's a lot of Wisconsin fans who are deep in the dumps, and this is a prestigious program, has been for some years. Just talk about what is the state of this Badger program right now, Don?
Well, I think a few years ago they forgot who they were. They lost their identity. That's not the Wisconsin teams that Murray had or Brett had. And somebody decided, I know what we should do. We should be more balanced between run and pass. Let's hire a guy that wants to throw the ball a lot. And that's not who they are. They used to always have a great defense. And, of course, they were able to shorten the game by running the ball down your throat if you weren't able to defend very well. And now they're not very capable of doing either one. Their defense, I thought, I was somewhat impressed with them against Michigan. I thought they hung in there. But then tonight, I swear, it felt like some of those guys gave up too. The numbers, Corey, just to give you a little background on the preparation for the game, talking about analytics. As you know, I look at all the conference games, and the staff gets a copy of that report on a weekly basis, updated every week. But also, for a game like Wisconsin, I would zoom in on Wisconsin. What I would think of as a bowl evaluation, right? Just looking at one team. I went back and looked at 13 games over the last 2 years. All 9 conference games last year, plus Alabama. That's 10. And then this year, the 2 conference games they played, again, plus Alabama. That's 13 games. There was only one parameter that identified the winning team in all 13 games. Incidentally, the record for Wisconsin in those games is 3-10. And that one parameter was total offense. It wasn't rush yardage, it was total offense. So as I mentioned to the coaches, we don't have to outrush them, but we absolutely have to outgain them. Because if you don't outgain them, I'm pretty sure you're going to lose to them. because the winning team is won on total offense all 13 games. And sure enough, we beat them by more than 100 yards. And as you know, we were +2 on turnovers. And if you have that combination working for you, now you get into a one-sided game. So that's what we had.
Wisconsin had a third-string quarterback in there, and a guy who did play last week actually played decently well, but man, it got sideways quickly. And Matt, I'll throw this question to you because we saw that defensive line get involved early. In fact, we might as well just segue to our Big Grove's big play of the day, because it was this is probably an easy one to pick. Aaron Graves, big defensive lineman, 35-yard interception return to the IU1. We need to correct that. Wisconsin 1 was initially called a touchdown, but what a play. In fact, I tweeted out shortly after that play transpired that it might be the most impressive interception I've seen from an Iowa defensive lineman. I don't know that that's a tough catch to make. Matt, I mean, Aaron Graves and you obviously, if there's any position,
I don't think there's much comparison, Corey. That dude, he's a pretty good athlete, man. He's been that way since high school, and he's fun to watch. And yeah, what the heck, 37-0, and I was a D tackle at Iowa. So when you look at a stat line and there's 2 interceptions, and they're both by defensive tackles, Hawthorne and Graves, that gets me excited, man. That's a big boy's dream, and he almost made it. But yeah, impressive. I mean, impressive that he had the wherewithal to, he kind of got blocked, and then he just faded because he read the play, and yeah, caught it right in his belly and almost made it to the end zone. So super impressive. And then Hawthorne got some more playing time today, and he looks good. So yeah, excited to see what those two guys do the rest of the season.
I found myself wondering about this. I was lucky enough to coach 425 games in college football. I don't think I can remember one out of those 425 games where 2 D linemen had picks in one game. I think that's more than maybe 10,000.
He tackles too. It's not a DN catching a tip ball or something. It's two big boys in the middle. So that's awesome.
I think they knew that Matt was debuting on this show tonight because of all the positions on the field. You got a couple of interior defensive linemen finding a way to make big plays. And yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about this when we were anointing Aaron Graves as our big play of the day candidate. Yeah, Bryce Hawthorne. It's ironic because I kid you not, and people I was watching the game with can testify to this. I made the comment because I think the camera zeroed in on big number 96 right prior to that play, and I made the comment that I expected a little bit more out of him as far as stats heading into this year, just some off-season hype and scuttlebutt, but he tracked the ball well, and I believe it was big number 90, Brian Allen Jr., who's kind of runs inside and out. He's maybe a little bit more flexible, but got his big mitts on it, Don. And I know you're an offensive coach, but Iowa got their hands on several passes from the Wisconsin side of things. What's the key to executing and getting your hands on passes and causing those types of deflections, which can then lead to interceptions?
Well, ideally, as a D lineman, you're trying to beat that guy in front of you, but you still have an awareness of what the quarterback's posture is. And if he's leading in your direction with his lead foot, and he's looking in your direction, you better get your hands up because you got a chance to get a piece of it. And thankfully, we did.
Matt, were you good at getting your hands up on?
Oh, I wasn't the tallest human in the world, but I think I got a couple of bad balls. I did have an interception versus Northwestern too, so it does happen. And that was an actual called coverage, which don't ask me why the one tech was dropping into coverage, but hey, man, Coach Parker was dialing it up. But I mean, I got a few bat balls, but yeah, Coach is right. I mean, if you're getting blocked, but you still have eyes on that QB, and if he's stepping in your general direction and get your hands up and make the play, you still got a chance to make one. And don't just take that play off because you got stymied at the line or something. So yeah, they did a great job today.
That was my next question, Matt. Like, how did Norm coach? First of all, who was D-line coach when you were at Iowa?
I Coach Aiken, and then Coach Kaczynski was my last couple of years, or last year.
Okay. So how did those two guys plus Norm coach getting your hands on the football, and what's maybe different? Can you decipher a difference with how that's coached now with Coach Bell and Coach Phil?
I couldn't really comment on how they coach it now, but I mean, it's just like any. I mean, I think D-line coach is pretty stable on how they're going to coach that. I mean, it's if you're blocked at the line and if it's a short 3-step drop, get your hands up. And if it's not, then keep working, work your moves, work your second move to get to the QB if you got a deeper drop. But 3-step drop, and you can feel that if they short set you, which means that old lineman kind of punches you right at the line. It's a short drop most likely. So get your hands up and make the play.
Hope people are locked in tonight. This might be an all-time cast of two people. First of all, Coach Patterson as always, then having Matt with an all-time performance from Phil Parker's or Kelvin Bell's defensive lineman tonight. So good stuff. And I thought Max Lalone played well. Maybe didn't show up in the stat sheet, but noticed his number a lot. And I thought the defensive line in general played really well. Now it might be a little biased there because this is a third string quarterback for Wisconsin. But Don, what was the key to wreaking havoc early? I felt, just maybe I'm living in the moment a bit, but it felt like maybe the best performance from that defensive front we've seen all year.
I think you might be right. We did a good job of leaving them inefficient with early downs. In general, we got them into long yardage situations, and that's not what they want, of course. They'd like to find a way to stay ahead of the chains. We didn't give them much of a chance to do that. But just the fact that the score kept changing on them, let's face it, they like to play a lot like we do, or like that's how Wisconsin traditionally plays. Keep the game close. And if it turns into a rock fight, then you got a good chance to win. Good example is our game against Indiana, of course. We had the right approach for Indiana. And we simply got points early and early and often, and they're not the kind of team that can come from behind. As you've heard me say, Corey, and Matt, I bet you're familiar with the same number. 17 to me is always that magic number, especially if you're talking about second half. If you're up by 17, that requires 3 scores. And we were up by more than 17 in the first quarter, maybe, I think.
Yes, almost. We're at 17,
Yeah. So Wisconsin's not a team that's going to pile up a bunch of points. And at that point, their game plan, to some degree, I guess, went out the window.
Now,
I'm not sure what the game plan was. And it's really mystifying. As you guys both know, probably, I know that Corey's a well-met. You might not be aware, but did you see the end of the Wisconsin game last week against Michigan by any chance? Probably not. Anyway, at the end of the game, Wisconsin had chances to stop the clock with timeouts, trying to get the ball back. They were down 14 with a minute and a half left, but they had 3 timeouts at the time. My God, you got a chance. I mean, slim and none, of course, but my God, you keep fighting. So I just thought it sent a terrible message to the team. The coach gave up. He didn't burn a timeout. That's insane. And he did it again tonight when his offense was on the field at the end of the game.
Yeah, that was odd. That was odd. I just
you try to score.
To me, this looks like a coaching staff that knows it's going to be done. And I'm just saying that being totally objective. And I could be totally off on that, but I think I don't foresee an out right now with the schedule. And they flashed the schedule up on the board, Don. I mean, they got of their next 5 opponents, 4 of those are top 25 teams. 3 of them are top 10 teams. They're done. I mean, Luke Fickell's not making it through. I don't know when their next bye is without looking at their schedule, but I'd be shocked if he makes it to the end of the season.
You know who they got next week, right?
You got Ohio State coming to Madison.
Ohio State coming to Madison. I'm sure they might need to use a jumper at the end of the first quarter.
So, anyways, we'll get back to that. Big Grove's big play of the day, though, that 35-yard return off an interception from defensive tackle Aaron Graves. Took it back to Wisconsin 1, and Iowa finished that drive off with a tush-push of sorts from Mark Gronowski for the touchdown. Springtime, this is Alex in our super chat. Thank you, Alex. He says, hey, Corey, won't be able to call in tonight. Great win for the Hawks. O-line did awesome creating running lanes for all 3 backs. Of course, that's McNeil, that's Moulton, and that's Williams against the top 10 run D protecting Mark. Plus 3 turnovers. Didn't like the second to last series when Mark was still out there. I'm going to try to keep this positive. But I will say this before we go on, because Alex brought it up. Matt, you're going to find out real quick. I am not afraid to voice my opinion. Totally ridiculous that Mark was in there with 8 minutes to go, or whatever it was.
It made me nervous on that scramble too, and he got tackled from behind. Yeah, I know.
Why?
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah.
Just tell me why, Matt. You listen. Don is a good friend of Kirk's. You played for Kirk.
Yeah.
But why? Just tell me why. What's
up 30? Up 30. I don't know. That one's tough. And especially, coming off a bye, we got him healthy. We had a lot of people healthy with Van der Zee back and all those guys. You had to take a risk like that when, even go back to the Indiana game. Like if he was still in there, that's a different game too. So it's like, he's obviously he's our QB and he's the guy. So that's a judgment call by coach. But yeah, as a fan and as we're all fans now, yeah, we can say, yeah. And then when I saw him get tackled from behind, I'm like, hoping nothing happens, and he's good. And he was. You can see him grimace a little bit in the huddle, but yeah, he seems okay. But yeah, I mean, I hate to agree with that, but I kind of do a little bit. Get him out of there, get some reps for other people.
Yeah, and Don, you and I have had these conversations many a time. I don't fault Iowa for not giving Jeremy Hecklinski throws late in the game. I am not really upset about that. I understand the concept of wanting to get out of there. But when you're up 30-0 in the third quarter, Wisconsin wasn't moving the ball. They're not coming back from – can you imagine that Wisconsin offense coming back from 30-0 down to Phil Parker's defense in the third quarter? It's preposterous. So, Don, you give me an explanation from a coaching standpoint. I'm not asking you to criticize Kirk in the decision, but you give me an explanation as to why Kirk may have – because it's ultimately his call, right? Give me an explanation as to why Kirk would have left an under 100% Mark Gronowski in the game at that point.
I don't have a good explanation for that.
Okay.
I know.
Simple enough. We'll probably get back to that because I know that's been a hot button topic. It was a number of people were tweeting at me during the game in regards to that play, so I know that was a frustration. And, hey, when you're up 37-0, you're going to nitpick a little bit. Could have been more than nitpicking had there been an injury late, to Matt's point. But we'll get back to that here in a little bit. Our RTI Threads player of the game, I went back and forth on this because could have easily just named the entire Iowa defense the RTI Threads player of the game. But it is none other than Kamari Moulton, who had over 100 yards offense, 96 on the ground, had a touchdown on 15 carries, also had 3 receptions for 29 yards. Don is a former offensive coach. This felt like Kamari's best performance of the year. I know he had the injury early in the season. He just seemed to be running with some zip tonight. No Terrell Washington, no Jazz Patterson, but he was just really good. Talk about Kamari.
He was good. I've always liked him. He's not what you would call a power back, but he's got good vision, good balance, good spurt, good acceleration. He knows how to play the game. So I was happy to see him back and have no issue with that. One of the things I liked about our offense, I thought we did a good job of spreading the ball around. We got a lot of backs involved. We got a lot of receivers involved, considering how few balls we threw. We also thought a little bit outside the box at times. I've got them written down. I'll take a look at a couple of them. How about this? We had a snap where Vanami was lined up like a fullback. In the backfield, he was like a fullback. That was unusual. Here's another snap where the only back in the backfield with Mark happened to be 21. Our slot back. And what did we do? We gave him a quick pitch. He was in offset position. Since Mark was in the gun, Mark caught the ball, flipped it to him. Here he goes. Junior high football, but we're doing different things that people haven't seen us do. Nobody's seen Jared line up in the backfield. Jaden. But he did. We made an effort to get him the ball. He didn't have great productivity tonight, but I got to give Wisconsin credit for some of that. He still ran hard, made some guys miss here and there. Incidentally, before Matt signs off tonight, I would like to know, Matt, give us, don't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't be shy here. Go ahead and let us know about those tackles you broke after that interception against Northwestern, because I'm pretty sure your return looked a little bit like Aaron Graves, right?
No, it wasn't. I got ran down by a 6'6", like 330-pound guy. So no, there's nothing flashy about that. But no, to your point, I mean, yeah, they spread it out, and to Coach's point too, like different formations and different settings for Caden. Like Coach knows, you only have so much time during the week to. This is a defensive-minded guy. You only have so many reps in practice. And, you have 2 full practices, another walkthrough. And coaches are trying to squeeze that game plan into those 3 or 4 days. And for them to have to work on 2 or 3 other formations or take into account Caden now lining the backfield, and we all know the playmaker he is, that just takes 5-10 minutes out of a practice, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It slows some of these other teams' game plan down, and that only helps us. So I'm excited that they got him different ways. Even some of the speed sweep, that little quick pitch, like – they're doing their best to get it. And he's going to pop one as long as we keep feeding him the ball. So that's exciting to see for sure.
RTI Threads player of the game, Kamari Moulton, with 15 carries, 96 yards, a touchdown, also 3 receptions, 29 yards. And to both of your points, definitely a concerted effort to get Caden Weegan involved early. What'd y'all think about the fair catch that was not? Somebody comment on that, because my goodness, Don, that is one that I can't imagine LeVar Woods is going to be very happy with. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that was
my memory. I'm not sure I know what. Maybe I missed that play somehow.
Matt knows what I'm talking about. The Wisconsin.
He didn't call a fair catch, right? And the Wisconsin guy would give him his catching space of 1 yard, but he just caught it.
That was early.
Broke that, and then
Tim Dwight. Back in those days, of course, we had the I think it was 6 feet, right? The halo rule. And Tim would, I don't care if a guy's standing on top of me, he'd still catch it and run. He didn't care. That's what it looked like.
Can I ask you, is there a skill or a knack there that even a special teams coach might be comfortable with, where a Caden Weegan or a Tim Dwight of sorts, and I know there's not many, right, cut from that cloth, but
no,
where you're able to recognize, okay, a guy has stopped, as opposed to a guy coming full speed who's going to light me up? Like, is there a difference there where he's able to recognize in his peripheral, hey, I can field this because he's stopped and waiting for me to field it?
Right. Well, you better have really good hands to have that kind of confidence, because if you mug it, he probably gets it.
Yeah. I
right next to him.
That's definitely courage from Caden Weegan tonight. But that's what that dude exudes. So, all right, let's get to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Before we do that, of course, as always, a reminder that we are sponsored tonight by Iowa Smokehouse. And if you're new to the show, you can be sure you support the progress and the efforts to give you live coverage and post-game coverage each and every week by this great company, Iowa Smokehouse, down in Ottumwa, the Albia, Ottumwa, Oskaloosa area, southern Iowa. Local company. Use that code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order of jerky, meat sticks, salsas, barbecue sauces, ketchups. It's all wonderful. And you see here pictured the country style bacon meat sticks. Great with your favorite bourbon or beer. Shop now over at iowasmokehouse.com. And again, 15% off your order. If you use the code Hawkeyes at checkout, you'll get free shipping to your doorstep with any $50 order. Again, Iowa Smokehouse. Also, Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm. Give Brad a call first thing Monday morning for a free quote on any type of insurance, auto, life, boat, motorcycle, whatever it may be. 515-256-6480. Visit Brad online, bradvanmeter.com. And what Brad has told me, him and his team, apparently auto rates going down with State Farm. So might be the time to call. Again, 515-256-6480 or online at bradvanmeter.com. Brad Van Meter at State Farm in Des Moines. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. We've had a number of people here waiting to chat with Coach Patterson and Hawkeye great Matt Kroll. Paul is with us. Paul, welcome to the show, sir. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's also nice to be a fellow Mount Vernonite like Matt. So
good alum.
There we go.
I jumped to the rival town though, and I'm in big trouble for it. But I'm in Solon, and I get some flack for it now. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. No, I was happy the way the guys played tonight. just an all around. I thought what was interesting, I went and looked back at all the plays that Wisconsin did. The farthest they got was the Iowa 35-yard line.
Yeah.
That's impressive to me. They didn't even get in the red zone once.
Well, part of the issue, let me just throw my 2 cents in here. Part of the issue is they kept turning the ball over on their own side of the field. And so then I was able to kick. And then they also had by the way, they had 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties prior to kickoffs, right? One before the game even started, Matt. I don't know the last time I've seen that. We see these little jaws before games happen, but you had an unsportsmanlike. So automatically there, you're not getting past the 25. The second one, Iowa actually gifted them a squib kick, which I thought was an interesting decision from LeVar Woods. Actually gifted them better position than the 25. But part of that is shooting yourself in the foot with penalties.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I saw they showed the replay on FS1. I'm like, why is that guy going out and just yelling right when the Hawkeyes come out in the swarm? I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And they had 2 personal foul penalties tonight?
Yeah, the 2 prior to kickoff, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they both prior to kickoff, I believe?
I thought there was only one, but I could be wrong.
To speak to their culture, like that's never been Wisconsin, and like they don't talk like that, but you could see it a lot even after plays, a little chippiness, get in people's faces, and we're all Iowa guys, so that's not how we play. It's not what we do, and Wisconsin usually isn't that way. And yeah, they just and just dumb penalties that shoot you in the foot. And when it's a field position game, a lot of times with these 2 teams, yeah, that's some big mistakes that can't happen, and hopefully it doesn't with us ever. So I don't think it will either. But yeah, just not good on their part.
I kind of feel bad for Wisconsin. I mean, yeah, I like beating them 37-0. That's great.
Don't feel bad for Wisconsin. I heard
I do feel a little bad for them. I don't hate them. I don't hate them as bad as Nebraska.
You don't feel bad for a trophy game rival. Like, this is a team that was the thorn in Iowa's side. How many, Matt, you know this, how many West Division titles did Wisconsin keep Iowa from like 2011 to 2012 to 2023? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for a program. I know that these guys aren't any part of that, but Matt, kudos to your teams because you guys did pretty well against Wisconsin. What was your record against the Badgers?
Oh man, yeah, why are you doing this to me? Well, we beat them my true freshman year.
You beat them in 2000. You beat them in 2008 in Madison. I remember that game.
2008. That was yes, beat them in 2008. 04. That was a co-Big Ten champ. That was my redshirt year.
Yep.
05 was Barry Alvarez's last game up there. One of my favorite games that I played in. I was a freshman. Played up there for Coach Alvarez's last game. So there's 3, and I don't know. I think we won at home 1 or 2 more. So we might have lost once out of 5 years that I was there. So yeah, I'll take that. I'll take those.
Absolutely, yeah. And I, Paul, you can feel however you want. I don't feel sorry for Wisconsin one bit. I greatly treasure a 37-0 blowout, but to each his own. I understand it.
I hate Nebraska more than Wisconsin. That's just me. But,
sure.
I think you're right, Corey. I think that's a coaching staff that knows they're done and they're just waiting to get the axe out. I don't know when it's going to be. It might be this week. I mean,
well, that's sad. I'll say this. That's sad. Don, you know about the coaching carousel in college football today. Luke Fickell's a good football coach. I think most people would say that. I think it's a bad situation. I think it was a bad hire. I think it was a bad job to take. Hindsight is 20/20. I did not think that when it occurred. But Don, Luke Fickell's a good football coach. Is that fair?
I've always thought so until this year. I think they simply got torpedoed by the wrong offensive coordinator that was the wrong hire.
Yeah, I mean, I'll comment on that. I played with Jim Leonard at the Jets for 3 years, and that guy, he had that defense rolling a few years ago, and it's interesting. My wife, being the football person she is, she's like, let it be a cautionary tale a little bit. Maybe the hot coach isn't always the right coach to hire. I'm not saying always hire within. I'm not saying that either. But at the same time, when you got a guy like Jim Leonard who had that defense rolling and was a Wisconsin guy when it was all, one of the smartest players I've been around as a safety, maybe he was the right guy. And, maybe, Coach Fickle was a good coach, but maybe it's like Coach is saying that isn't really wasn't the right fit for him. And maybe Jim was the guy for the job, but, we'll never know now. But, yeah, it's not a good place for them right now.
Where is Jim Leonard now?
Good question. I don't know. Not sure.
I don't either.
Not sure either.
I believe he was with Illinois. He was with Brett for a while, right at Illinois.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure he's somewhere. He's too good a football mind to not be somewhere. So
yeah, just disappointing. Again, I don't feel sorry for Wisconsin, the program, because they're a rival to Iowa, but it is sort of sad to see a demise of a program that's had so much prestige over the last number of decades. Paul?
Yeah, it's just shocking what's happened in Wisconsin. What was it? 5 years ago, they won the Big Ten West.
Yep, I'm
sure 20 around there. They won it, and now they're just probably one of the worst teams in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, they are. Like I said, I'm surprised they didn't get rid of Fickle during the bye week. Maybe that's overcompensating for what was probably the wrong move in getting rid of Paul Chris in the first place. I don't know.
My guess is they're looking at a huge buyout too.
Well, they're looking at a huge buyout, Don, but do you believe that they're going to retain him past this year? And what's the difference between getting rid of him now and getting rid of him in December? There's no way they retain.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to dig their way out of it, but it's also not easy to come up with $50 million, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a big number.
Then also, I listened to the radio broadcast with the TV muted, and the mics were picking up just cheering all over the place from the Wisconsin fans tonight. That's a fan base that's just upset right now. I mean, and I don't blame them. I'd be upset too. I mean, you've been so successful the last 20 years, and now you're in a place where you're one of the worst teams. I'd say them and Penn State are the two worst teams right now in the Big Ten. I mean, power ranking wise right now. And looking ahead, Iowa's got to feel pretty good at going against Penn State at home. They got to feel great. This was not, when you look at the preseason, this was not a winnable game, to us. And now you got to feel really good. And now that Indiana loss doesn't look so bad.
Yeah, well, Drew Allard's out for the year, it sounds like. So that's a factor. I would still say Penn State's one of the most talented teams in the conference. So take what they've done over the last 2 weeks aside, they're still really talented. But to your point, yeah, I mean, very winnable game next week. I happen to think Iowa, if I'm not good at predicting Vegas lines, but if I had to, I would say it's going to be a pick 'em. Whenever that opens, right? When does that open? Like tonight or tomorrow?
Usually Monday.
Yeah. So I would say it's probably a pick 'em at home. Maybe I will be favored. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, without Drew Aller, I don't know how their backup performed in the last 2 minutes of that game tonight. We haven't really talked at all about Northwestern Penn State. But
another good backup last year is now starting as someone else. Now, where did he go?
He's
Mizzou, isn't he?
He's in Mizzou. Yeah, they battled Alabama down to the wire tonight. So, yeah, it's
he's playing okay at Mizzou.
Two guys who I think know football really well and are good football coaches. Fickle and Franklin both, I think, are in trouble, and I just don't. I'd be hard pressed to envision a scenario. Maybe it's more attainable for Franklin because I think he's got the talent. I don't know that Fickle has the talent, and he didn't have the schedule to have success, I don't think, down the stretch of this year. So, anything else, Paul, before we let you slide?
I'd say Franklin, the Penn State coach, I think he's more of a hot seat just because of all the NIL money that's coming to Penn State. And donors don't like that when you're not using their NIL money good, especially when you're the preseason number 2. I think Fickle, it seems like the fans haven't liked him ever since he got there. So I think that one's a little more easier to get rid of. But yeah, if I'm Penn State right now, boy, I just feel awful. I mean, they could easily be 3-4 after next week.
They may be. And they're out of the playoff race at this point. I mean, frankly, unless all Hades breaks loose over the next 6-7 weeks, there's probably not going to be any. I would say it's very unlikely a 3-loss Big Ten team gets in. So, Paul, appreciate you calling in, sir. And don't just call in when Matt's on here. We love you too. So
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, all the people who are premium subscribers who are in the chat: Kyle, Barbara, Hawkeye, Howard, James, Dale. I see all of you in the chat. Thank you for being here. If I didn't get your name called out, just know that we do appreciate you being here. Before we continue, I kind of led with this, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up an hour flies by, Matt. And I know we talked about you being on here for an hour. So I want to, before we hit that hour mark, for people that haven't gone over and heard your story. So post Iowa, I know the documentary touches on it a little bit. You going to the Jets and you made the position switch from defense to offense, which is a unique, storyline. I kind of asked you about that in our private conversation here earlier this week. But for people that haven't watched episode 1 of Farms of America, what can they expect to hear? What was that like, being a part of, being interviewed for a documentary, having this production crew on your farm, all of that? What's it like?
Very interesting, right? I mean, you never know. It's interesting what they put into an episode, right? I mean, we see reality TV, we see docuseries, all over the place, and what the producers decide to make into that 30-minute episode is always interesting, because they're there 5 days, and it was probably 16 hours a day from when you got up. They came to our house, watching our kids get ready for breakfast, kind of went through the whole day. So you never know what they're going to put in the episode, but like for them to piece it together. And our episode was great. I thought, I mean, if anything, if people watch it, they watch it. If they don't, it'll be an awesome piece for us to look at 20 years from now when our kids were, 2, 4, 6, and 8 or something, and to see that. So, but what they can expect is just, like I said in the beginning, they told a great natural story of each of these farms, and not only ours. There was a lot of farms that they did the same thing with, and covered everything from crawfish farming to cranberries to everything that I do, that we mentioned, you name it, cattle, no more row crop people. So, but they try and be educational about it, which I think is cool. And I think that's the whole point. I mean, this day and age, we mentioned how many farmers and family farms are going under or selling off or whatnot. Farming, especially in Iowa, is still the backbone of what we do. And it's still the backbone of this nation too. And so that's the whole point of Reagan and Massey doing what they're doing, is to just tell a positive story and also let the society know some of the struggles we go through too. So they did a great job being positive, but then touching on some of these, recent or, this day and age problems that we face or struggles that we face as farmers. So it's good. They did a great job.
What's the future look like for farmers in this state, in the country, etc.?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, but I mean, it just, we battle all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, it's urban sprawl, it's losing farmland, it's losing acres. It's education, I mean, we all have access to this beautiful thing called the internet, and we always think we have the answers, but to talk to a farmer and realize that the 99% of farmers are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to make a land that they own a better place, or they rent a better place. And, we care just as much about the land as anybody. You get some bad press once in a while with some things, but, I think that's the future, is just ask a farmer a question, farmers being open book, and just kind of explain to people that, still a very valuable asset to what we're trying to do, feeding, fueling, and everything else that we do as farmers to make this world go around. So, yeah, it's a thing that don't be ashamed as a farmer either. Go tell your story, and this is still touches a lot of people, especially in this state in the Midwest. So it's a good thing.
You seem pretty comfortable on a podcast.
Me?
You need to do more of these podcasts, Matt.
Well, I think we're going to do that. So Farms of America, Reagan and Massey are going to sponsor my wife and I, Nicole, to kind of go back and rehash each episode and get on a podcast. Yeah. So I better polish up, man. This is only probably my second one ever, but I need to polish up. I need to be as good as you, man, and just make it happen. So we're going to do that. We're going to film film podcast each episode of what Farms of America was in season 1, and we'll get to meet and ask those farmers questions that I have, what I think people want to figure out or know about them. So it'll be a fun experience, and it'll be new to me, man. I'll see how I do it. We'll see. I'll take some notes from you.
Talk about where people can find the season 1 of Farms of America.
Yeah, so Reagan and Massey is the company they're out of Louisiana, actually. They're a herbicide company out of Louisiana. And they have it on the YouTube channel, like you mentioned. It's on the Cowboy channel. If you have that subscription to the Cowboy channel, you can find it there. RFD TV is the agricultural channel that it's on as well. So, but yeah, I would urge you to go to their YouTube page, and they've I think unveiled every season 1 episode, or very soon if they have not. So go check it out. I mean, even if you just catch a few episodes, definitely catch the Crow Farm one, obviously, but check them all out, because it's a great, just put together program that they did a wonderful job doing.
Yeah, it's an absolutely awesome series of shows. And again, start with episode 1. It's a good place to start right there locally in Mount Vernon, Iowa. We're going to go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We've got a caller on our phone line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Kyle Thompson.
Hey, Kyle. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Before I forget, Matt, I want to tell you, I was at the Penn State game in 08 when the game winner happened.
Love it. Love night games in Kinnick, especially with last-second field goals by Mr. Murray. That's always good. We'll take those.
Nothing better than Oway. You and I talked about that game, Matt, right? Like that is maybe Kyle, you and I are in the same boat. That's the biggest childhood memory that burns in my brain is 2008, the Daniel Murray kick and everything that led up to it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. All right, let's get to the game. For the second year in a row, we dominated the run game again.
Yeah. Well, this is the new Wisconsin, unfortunately. And credit to Tim Lester's. I mean, we've seen since Tim Lester took over, whether you want to give credit to, exclusively the Tim offense or, just maturation development with George Barnett's unit, whatever the case may be, or the Caleb Johnson effect. Iowa's ran the ball better here in the last season and a half. I think we can all agree on that. So it's been a cumulative effect, but yeah, they're definitely a better ground team than Wisconsin is right now.
Yeah, I don't think Wisconsin was even – the Wisconsin fans were not even cared about this game. They were cared about the baseball one, which the Brewers won.
Did the Brewers win? Okay, they won tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 3-1 was the final.
I do recall thinking they were playing in Milwaukee, right?
They were playing in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I do recall thinking maybe that'll take away from the crowd a little bit in Camp Randall.
Yeah, yep. Go ahead, Kyle.
And one last thing, before you got to your first call, and I said you were talking about how Luke Fickell might not even make it for the season, which might happen. But what can you see about Penn State with James Franklin?
Yeah, I mean, both of I said it here a few minutes ago. I think both those coaches, it would take a lot. I don't know what Franklin can do. Matt, you want to comment on that? Because you didn't play during the Franklin era, but Franklin's been there a long time now, and he's not the warmest, cuddliest head coach, but he's won a lot of football games. They've never really gotten over that hump. They made it to the playoff last year, lost in the second round, but there was just so much as far as expectation and hype. And I don't really know if you can pinpoint where this thing has gone awry over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, but that's a tough time to be an AD. These athletic directors make a lot of these tough decisions, and how do you move forward from that? And especially, hopefully, we kick their butts next week, and it's that's one more loss. So that's tough. That's tough. But like to your point, the success that he's had, how patient is the upper staff of letting him try to turn it around? They let him have a losing record this year, and they let him rebuild. But to someone's point, and I think they've been open about it, the amount of money that they spent on NIL was like $22 million or $23 million. Like at that same time, and you have some of this money flying around with some of this, the new age of college football. Like I think patience is even less. So I think that's the sad point. Those two guys, yeah, Wisconsin's schedule is ridiculous. We saw that, but if Penn State still has a 500 or losing record, I don't see that either. I think the patience has been lost, and fortunately, we've had it at Iowa. We've had patience, and coach has been coach, and he's been great. So we'll take that.
Don, I made the comment here 2 days ago, recording with Mark Rogers over on our Iowa Voice of College Football channel. I said, hey, if they lose to, I was kind of joking because I just didn't think there was any way they lost to Northwestern. You realize both of these games these last 2 weeks, Penn State has been a 22-plus point favorite in each of those games. Don, they lost today at home to Northwestern.
Correct.
I made the comment to Mark here a couple of days ago. I said, if they lose to Northwestern, Franklin may be fired, right after the game. I mean, and now that we're hearing it just happen, I can't imagine Penn State firing James. That would be, but we've seen crazy things happen. Don, you've been on the plus and the negative side, plus and minus side of, the coaching carousel. What do you think the next month or two looks like for James Franklin and his staff?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. As you know, the offensive coordinator was a GA for me years ago.
Yeah, really good.
Football coach,
really he earned his way there at Kansas. Was a really good OC for the Jays.
And even last fall, they had a really challenging offense to defend, I think. But for some odd reason, they've lost their edge, and maybe Matt would have a comment about it. Sometimes, as I look at a team, I find myself wondering, is it possible that the coach has lost the team? That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I believe he lost team plus. Drew Hours done for the year.
Yeah, bad timing. And by the way, just context, because I saw this. I didn't watch the game today. I watched all of UCLA Penn State a week ago. I did not watch Northwestern Penn State today. But I heard Drew Aller was hurt, and then apparently he's out for the season. At least those reports are out there. But then context, watching the highlights, he was hurt when they were down 22-21 in the final 3 minutes of the game. So they were on track to lose with him. So Matt, your thoughts on? I mean, I would assume you've never experienced being on a team where the coaching staff, quote unquote, lost the players. But would you agree with Coach Patterson's breakdown of this? It feels like that's what's happened in State College.
Well, Coach knows. I mean, when you got 100+ different egos, attitudes, backgrounds in a locker room, on a team, and say 10 of those guys start quitting, then it's poisonous, and sometimes that happens. So, I've never been a part of a team that it's happened, so I couldn't speak open about it. But I mean, when you have that many people in a locker room and you have that much talk, and in this digital age that we live in too, and people start murmuring, and now guys can leave and go places if they want after 1 year. Some of this, it's even harder as a coach, I think, to keep that team connected and to keep that unity, because school pride sometimes isn't even there anymore. You know what I mean? When you can jump to the next NIL deal, and you start looking like the grass is green on the other side, and that's never a good thing either. So I think that's a testament to some coaches that are keeping it together. But I think you can spread even faster now when you lose a team, and maybe he has.
Kyle, anything else, buddy?
No, it's always good. No, thanks for taking my call. Always good to be your rival, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate the call, sir. Lemansky, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate Kirk Ferentz in the program tonight as Penn State and Badger programs implode. So, it's crazy what's happening in both places. Very different situations. Obviously, the Wisconsin decline has been relatively steady since Luke Fickell took over there. But then this James Franklin thing went from, 60-0 very quickly. Keep in mind, they were in overtime just 2 weeks ago. They were in overtime with Oregon, on the verge of winning that game, and then, being undefeated. And a lot of people projected them maybe as the best team heading into the season in the country. And now they're a 3-loss Nittany Lions team, reeling, a team that has to go to Kinnick next week. Sounds like without their quarterback, Drew Aller, who will likely not play another snap again for the Lions. Scott Henning with the Super Chat. I know Wisconsin's down right now. It's great to see the defense looking good. The offense scores unlike a couple of years ago. Go Hawks. So appreciate that, Scott. Thank you for being here and for the Super Chat. Also, Joey. Here's a name we recognize. Joey Bruner. Hopping on here as a premium member. Appreciate Joey. Not to be confused with the starting offensive lineman for the Wisconsin Badgers, who shares the same name. Did you notice that, Matt? You didn't know that? I believe it's Wisconsin starting left guard is Joey Bruner.
Joey, the real Joey Brewer is like 5'9", 145, but he might put on some weight over the next couple weeks.
So this Joey Bruner is also up in the Wisconsin area, but big part of what we're doing here up at Farms of America and Media Stash and the production crew putting all that together for Farms of America. So thank you, Joey, for being here and for hopping on as a premium member. And Matt, do you have time for one or two more phone calls before we let you slide? Let's get Brian. We got Brian. Brian, I'm here. First of all, I'm hearing echo. I'm really hearing a wicked echo. I'm going to mute you. Is there any way you can fix the echo? Let's see.
I'm muted, so I can't really. I don't know. Hold on a second.
I'm going to let you go ahead and answer ask your question, whatever you got for Matt. I'm going to mute you in between your question and the response, so we're not hearing that echo. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm really sorry. So I just wanted to call in and say you treated my son so well during Kids Day, and we're from Eastern Ohio. We drove 9.5 hours to get there, and you had your old lady and your kids there, and everyone there just was fantastic. And that's something that that I want my kid to know. And tell you what, Corey Brada is the best. So
you talking about me? I thought you were talking about Matt. You're talking about me. Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about Matt.
Yes. No, I'm sure Matt's great.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Brian. Did you say something about my old... I'm sorry, man. I totally zoned out because I totally thought you were talking to Matt. You said something about my old lady. Is that what you said?
Yeah, she was very, very polite to my son. And
wait, real quick. My wife was not at Kids Day.
Who was it that was there that you were kind of funneling all the players to?
Okay. I know who you're talking about. We had a family friend that was there with her kids. And so that's crazy that's getting brought up. So we had a family friend there that came down to the sidelines, and they've got some kids. And so we made sure they had access to some of the players for autographs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you were
when you comment, I'm like, gotta be talking about either Matt or Don or someone else. But no, I appreciate those kind words, Brian.
No, that's I apologize. You were so polite. I thought there's no way that someone can be this polite to someone that they're not with. So my apologies for that. And it is what it is. But I wanted to talk about so Oregon lost at home. Of course, we've already touched on that. And Penn State lost at home. So how good does Iowa look moving forward? Because they lost by 5 at home to Indiana in the same time I think you guys might be one time zone behind Indiana. But like I said, I'm from Ohio, so I'm not geographically inclined. How good does Iowa look now that's happened?
Matt, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, look at our two games. Iowa State rival game. A ball bounces a couple times our way. That's our game. We have that game at home versus Indiana. Say Mark stays healthy and we get a field goal or we score, or we even take it down and score. We just contain the clock and win that game. What the heck? Our defense is always going to be our defense. And if we run the ball like we ran the ball today, which sets up everything for us as far as play action and anything. We didn't have any deep pass plays by any means, and that's always what we're looking for. But at the same time, we can run 5.8 or some yards a carry. Like, you know, we're a very hard team to beat with the defense that we have if we're running the ball like that. And those other two running backs, Williams and McNeil, like, they look pretty impressive. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if our O-line plays with that sort of nastiness, so it looks like they were playing with tonight versus that Wisconsin team, you know, I like it. So, you know, bring up those two losses, yeah, you bring them up, but at the same time, stay pretty positive, you know, jumping into this week and jumping into all the following weeks. You know, who knows? I don't know. I tell people all the time, like, the difference between a 10 and 11 win season or a 6 to 7 win season is like 8 to 9, 10 plays during a year, you know, and hopefully, you know, you've seen the seasons when we are 10 or 11 win teams, and you see the seasons that are 7-win teams. You know, we think the sky's falling, but at the same time, you know, football's fun for a reason. You know, it's tight all the time, and it comes down to who makes a play at the right time. So I'm excited to see it, and like I said, keep Mark healthy and keep running the ball. And I'm a defensive guy, and defense will be what the defense is, and Phil always gets it figured out, whether it takes him a quarter, 5 minutes, or a half. You know, he usually gets it figured out pretty quick. So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to watching him.
And Don, a lot of people, to Brian's point, after that Indiana loss, of course, the sky's falling always. It's always falling. But, you know, 2 losses, it doesn't do you in now with the new format. If your goal is postseason relevance, I know people laughed at me when they're not eliminated from the playoff. That's a fact. If they win out, they'll win a national title. Like, that's right. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, Matt, you're laughing, but you know that's true, right? If they
you don't have, like, to Don's point, like, you don't have your team if you don't think that's the end goal. Like, everyone wants a Big Ten title, everyone wants a national title. Right. Like, we don't go through 5 weeks of camp beating our heads in not to win at all. So yeah, it's always the goal, and it's still a chance. So play the game. And
Don, if they end up 10-2 with a win against Oregon and a win against Penn State,
we're one of those 12 teams.
You're one of the 12 teams. So laugh at it if you want, folks, but that's the reality of it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, you know, beat in Wisconsin tonight. And Brian, Penn State doesn't look as scary. Oregon got beat at home tonight to an Indiana team Iowa battled. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win all those games. USC's a tough game. Nebraska's a tough game. By the way, Michigan State got their pants pulled down by UCLA today at home. That was up in East Lansing.
Let me say this today, Corey. There were 2 games. 2 teams gave a really strong case for not being victimized when you've got to fly through a couple of 3 time zones and play. UCLA goes to East Lansing and wins convincingly. And not to be outdone, Indiana goes to Oregon, where very few people gave much of a chance.
Very true. And I don't know how is Michigan performing out at USC? Do they have an update on that game right now?
They read too much about not being able to win on the West Coast, so they're losing by 3 touchdowns, I think.
Okay. I'll get a live update on that in a second. But Brian, anything else?
No, like you guys just touched on, you know, Michigan, you know, that win against Wisconsin doesn't look so good anymore. And now they're losing at USC, I think, is what you guys just said. So that looks a little bit more, you know, more like a tough stretch. But I mean, there's still hope. Like you've always said, Corey, there's still hope, and the sky is not falling. Just calm down and bend, don't break attitude for the defense. Iowa's offense, I would have liked to see Mark, you know, taken out in the 3rd quarter or at the beginning of the 4th, but, you know, who knows why. So the coaches are great coaches, and, you know, I'm no smarter than they are. I'm definitely not as smart as they are, but, you know, thank you guys for the time, and I really appreciate it, and go Hawks.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate that, Brian. Thank you so much for being here. And I, again, appreciate the kind words at the outset of your call. Yeah, USC, that game has gone final. 31-13 final score over the Michigan Wolverines. So, you know, Iowa's got difficult games in the schedule, regardless of what's going on with Penn State. But I don't think there's any game on the schedule you could point at right now and say it's not winnable. And so, yeah, to Brian's point, hope. You know, hope sometimes keeps you going, right, Matt? Like, you guys You went through some difficult seasons. There were some tough stretches in there, right?
We went through a non-bowl game my junior year. Lost to Western Michigan last game. Went 6-7. Didn't make a bowl game. One of the hardest winners in my life, probably, with the Coach Doyle and that program that winter to kind of shape us. And we didn't start out 08 hot by any means, and then we won the last 8 games. And finished well. So yeah, you never know. You never know when that turning point is going to be, but just keep pushing and keep working and keep doing what you do, and good things will happen.
If I'm not mistaken, I promise I didn't look up the stat preseason, but that season, that 08 season, is ingrained in my mind. I believe those 4 losses, you'd be able to tell me this, Mark, those 4 losses came by a total of 12 points in 08. And that set up, obviously, a very memorable 09 season. But, there's some lumps in the road in 07 and even in 08 before you got to the success of the Penn State game, and then, of course, the Outback Bowl against South Carolina, et cetera. So, all right, let's go ahead, Don.
Then the final, Minnesota 27, Purdue 20.
Okay, and Nebraska also, if people missed that, they came back, overcome a deficit against Maryland. No surprise there. Those Michael Locksley teams find ways to lose. In fact, Don, I made the comment earlier this week, Nebraska versus Maryland just feels like who wants it the least. It just, in the last 5 to 10 years, that's what those two programs, for me, that's what I think when I think of those two programs. So Nebraska
is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, okay, let's go to what I believe will be our final caller for Matt. We'll go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We've got Vincent on the line. Vincent, thank you for calling the postgame show.
Guys, good evening. As always, Corey and Don, pleasure. Matt, also same thing. Pleasure to have you on here. I'm just going to kind of rattle some stuff off, Corey, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So the first thing, I got to ask Matt this as the casual Iowa fan, because I know NIL was really prevalent, and I'm sure Matt's NIL deal was huge when he was playing for Iowa, getting paid in sweet corn and soybeans. But can you imagine yourself playing today with the NIL era, or just what is your take on that?
Obviously, yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great that the guys are getting paid. Do some rules maybe put in place. Yes, as far as jumping ship after 1 year and payment and all that stuff, but and then they'll get it figured out, I hope. But yeah, I don't know, man. I wasn't the flashiest guy in college. I don't know if I would have had some big NIL deals. I think that would have went to Mitch King probably a little more. He had the hair, he had the charisma, man. I was just the player, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe some Carhartt deals or something like that we could have got done. But no, I thought at that time you thought you're pretty fortunate with a scholarship and a small scholarship check to cover your rent and some food. So you know, still blessed to be on scholarship and to play that long ago. But it's a different world, and more power to the players to getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. And like I said, they'll get those regulations and parameters put in place, I would hope, and just chill down the wild west a little bit that it is now. So we'll see what happens.
Matt, don't undersell yourself. You were a damn good player alongside King. I still remember I was at that Western Michigan game. I think JC was our quarterback, Jake Christensen. Not the best showing, but no, you were a damn fine player. Sorry, Corey, for the language, but damn fine player. It was always the law offices of K&K. They're kind of holding up the middle of the D line. So next question I had, this is for each one of you guys. I know with Lester coming in, a lot of folks were excited for a new look offense. What are you guys, or what's your take so far 5 games in? Are you guys, is this what you'd hope to see? Were you hoping to see more, or is it less? I mean, just what's your overall take?
I'll just throw this out and then I'll let the two experts comment. Once Iowa got up 20-0, I kind of checked out from a perspective of trying to analyze Iowa's offense today. And I said it going into the game. I thought this was, first of all, I didn't expect Wisconsin, credit Iowa's defense, but I did not expect 3 early turnovers from Wisconsin. So that obviously changes everything. Vincent, you probably heard my preview. I expected this game to be sort of similar to 2 years ago when it was 15-6 up there. I thought Iowa would try to control field position, especially with Mark dinged up, rely on the run game. if Wisconsin doesn't score, they don't win, that kind of deal. And that's what happened, except they also, I don't want to say gifted Iowa 3 turnovers because Iowa earned those turnovers, but that's what happened. And so at that point, it was like, I don't really care what Mark's stats are. You knew Lester was going to play it close to the vest per Kirk Ferentz, right? Like, I think those guys are working hand in hand. What just happened with my lighting here? We're going to figure that out. Matt, do you want to comment on that as well? I just don't think it's a great game to analyze. Play calling.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough game to analyze, like you said, but I think Coach hit on it earlier too with spreading the ball out. I mean, I don't know how many receivers looking at the box score, 10, 11, so that's encouraging. There were a couple third down conversions that were encouraging. We ran to the sticks and we got to the sticks and we caught it. A lot of times as Iowa fans, sometimes we see those 5-yard outs or something that were a couple yards short of first down. So we were converting those a couple of times, which was big. Some 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s. I like the way the running game was with throwing Caden back there a couple of times, getting some of these younger running backs, just because they had to step up and play. But, that Xavier Williams looks tough, man. He looks like a little bowling ball that can make some plays. And Molden, just as Coach said, has great vision and seemed like he was making the right cuts and seeing the things. And the old line was firing off. Like, there was times where I saw guys finishing blocks and pancaking guys. So I think that's a positive thing. And I think, if we have a run game going and we get play action, we're going to hit someone deep sooner or later. It's encouraging. So I think Coach Lester, is getting better every week and fine tuning this thing. And as we all know, Mark's played a crap ton of football and he's going to be just fine. He's a winner and he's going to do things right.
Coach, do you got any comments on the coaching style, or I should say play calling performance?
My disappointment tonight, because of the way the game played out, we didn't have to present a balance between run and pass.
Yep.
We were able to shorten the game and run the ball, and ran it effectively. But I'm fearful that going forward, it might catch up with us. I simply say we need to be more efficient in throwing the ball than what we've been. Game in and game out. You look at yards per attempt. Tonight we had better yards per attempt on run than we did pass probably. That's not good. You clearly should have better average per attempt in the passing game than the running game. And if you don't, then why wouldn't you run the ball all the time and not risk throwing interceptions or getting strip sacks and all that stuff, or tip passes? But there's going to come a time when we need to be somewhat balanced with our offense and need to be able to throw it for 200 or more to be able to win a game.
Without looking at the stats, weren't they more balanced 2 weeks ago against Indiana? Without looking at the stats, Don?
I think so. We ran for less than 100 against Indiana. I do remember that.
So how much do you kind of just take into account the fact that Mark was dinged up tonight and it was going to be rusty coming out of a bye where he didn't really practice, maybe got a couple of practices in this week?
Well, you remember the very first throw they had, I think it was on 2nd and 6 maybe, and he shot the ball over a receiver. He wasn't even that close. And really, from that point forward, we went with a lot of movement passes and short throws and high percentage plays. Incidentally, another problem we still have, as you know, we're not very good at producing big plays. And it hadn't been much of an issue, man, as you know, because what saved us is the fact that our defense doesn't give up big plays. Well, this year we've given up more big plays. Now, maybe we've got that corrected now. I hope so. But the bottom line is we still don't generate big plays on offense. And we miss that because the good teams do. Amazingly enough, though, there are a few exceptions. Corey, I fooled you a couple of weeks ago by saying, can you name the one team this weekend that did not make an explosive play? Because I was shocked. You want to tell everybody who it was?
You're going to put me on the spot because we had that conversation. It wasn't Iowa. It was Ohio State.
It was Ohio State versus Washington.
Yeah.
They won the game comfortably and never had a gain of 20 yards. And so tonight, I think we had 2 for sure that were 29 and 24. One of them was a run by McNeil, as I recall. The other one was a pass to our starting running back. The longest game for a receiver, I think, was 16 yards. So, and that's okay. We didn't need it. We got a big lead. We're protecting it. We're running the ball okay. It makes sense to shorten the game. But it also makes sense to play the backup quarterback. And for that matter, it wouldn't have bothered me if we played them both, the second and the third one. Right now, I'm concerned about where Hank Brown is because Hank Brown doesn't play at all, and we finally put in another guy that's not Hank Brown. So he's got to be wondering. I would love to have seen both of them play. And maybe they don't do anything other than execute the run offense. That's fine. But at least get an idea for how they run the team in a foreign stadium.
Real quick, I just want to say this, Vincent, then if there's anything else you want. I don't want to be accused of holding off until after we let Matt go. I want to be sure I get this out before.
All right.
I don't think, Matt, you're not on Twitter, right? So you don't interact on that.
No, not as much as I probably should. I think I'm on it. I don't never on it.
I don't know that anybody's going to say you should be on Twitter. Be reasonable persons that say that, but Don, I was ticked at the end of that first half because you were talking about getting Mark out. There are two things that drive me insane, and I feel comfortable saying this an hour and a half into this postgame show. Not getting Mark out of there early enough and total clock mismanagement at the end of the first half. And I am so tired of that. Every week we talk about this, Don. Every single week. And I don't care if it's 37-0. Matt, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to defend your head man. Total mismanagement of the clock week after week after week after week. And I don't know who it is that's giving Kirk quotas and information in those situations, but either that person needs to be fired or they need to just totally overhaul the entire system because they have no idea what they're doing in 2-minute situations with the clock. They don't. Don, I'll let you, because I'm coming on strong here. I'll give this to you, Don, because you've been working with me for longer than Matt has. Don, explain.
Well, one thing Matt's not aware of, I guess, Matt, after the Iowa State game, somebody called in and asked, Coach, how confident were you that when they kicked the long field goal to go up by 3, how confident were you that we could drive down the field and win the game with a touchdown? And I said, I'm an honest guy, not very confident at all, but I did think we had a chance to at least drive 36 yards and get in field goal range and kick a field goal and go to overtime. I thought we could do that. That was realistic. As you know, I think we failed on 4 downs. And then it started me thinking, why did I think that way? So I went back and did a study of all of our seasons in recent years and how we did with 2-minute offense. And you have an idea of the same thing that I know. The last time we scored a touchdown with 2-minute offense was 8 years ago. And we've had 22 chances in those 8 years to score a touchdown. But then to soften the blow a little bit, as Corey knows, 5 times we went on the field in a 2-minute situation and the game was tied up. So all we needed was a game-winning field goal. 5 times we drove the ball an average of 36 yards, and we were 5 for 5 kicking the game-winning field goal. But we were tied up. It's not really the same thing as being behind, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have to have a score then. And for that matter, a field goal might not be enough. You might need a touchdown.
Yep.
So it's safe to say we're not very good moving the ball when we have to move it, one last possession. And for that matter, we're not very good with clock management, as Corey is often known to say. And I can't even argue the fact, and I simply made the point with Corey. Corey asked, is that strictly Kirk's responsibility? And I said, maybe not, I don't know. The head coach does have the authority to delegate that responsibility to someone else. Typically, I don't think coaches do that. But I worked for a guy that did. He gave me the responsibility of telling him when to burn timeouts. I was happy to do it.
And just for the record, you're talking about Bob Diaco, correct?
At Buffalo. I'm sorry, at UConn. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess, Matt, I'll throw this to you. I mean, tell me what happened at the end of the first half. And I don't care if you're 20-0 or not, but is this not a pattern of behavior that it's correctable? correct?
No, I think, and I'll start with this. Like, Coach is the most honest guy that you'll meet, right? And he'll self-critique more than anybody. Like, that's kind of what he lives in sometimes, just being hard on himself. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan now, and there's times where I'm frustrated too. So I don't know what the process is. You know, I wish I did. Just who's whispering something in Coach's ear or what's going on, because there's sometimes some delays too. And when we know we need to call timeout and we lose 5 or 6 seconds, and every 5 or 6 seconds matters. So something in the process, yeah. And unfortunately, it's been like that way for a while. I'll admit that, you know, but I don't know what it is. You know, there's even, gosh, what was it? I took a note here. End of that first. Yeah, we had 4 seconds left. And did we throw a pick? No, we didn't throw a pick. What do we have?
Well, I'll give you an example.
It was just weird. It wasn't Iowa like. We should just ran the ball and got to the second quarter and we threw it and something bad happened.
Oh, well, that was in the first quarter. They threw the ball at the end of the first quarter and threw the pick last play of the first quarter. I'll give you an example into the half, though. Iowa gets a first down. This doesn't make any sense. So they're in the 2-minute offense, right? Iowa gets a first down with 1:11 remaining, all 3 timeouts. 1:11 remaining. They call a timeout with 1:07 remaining.
That's what I meant by 4 or 5 seconds sometimes.
Yeah, you may say, well, Corey, what the heck are you talking about? Who cares? Don, explain why that makes zero. To the average fan that maybe doesn't follow, why does what I just told you make 0 sense? You get a first down with 1:11 and you call a timeout with 1:07. Tell the average fan why that makes 0 sense.
Well, they had to stop the clock to move the chains.
Thank you. So if you're going to call, first of all, I don't even know why you're calling a timeout there, because you stop the clock. Be ready to get your offense up there and run a play. But if you say, hey, we're still going to stop the clock, then call it right away. Why are you waiting for them to reset the chains?
Yes.
4 more seconds for them? It just, none of that makes any sense. And again, I love Kirk, right? This is not a personal shot at him. Vincent, you know this. I make these comments all the time, but it makes no sense. It defies logic what they're doing in clock management. And I'll say this, I have no confidence. To Don's point, the data he shared, Vincent, do you have confidence if I was in a situation where they need a touchdown late in the game with clock and time and score and all these things a factor? I don't have confidence in those situations.
Do I have clock in 2 minute, or do I have confidence in 2-minute offense? No, I don't. Now, your point's well taken when it comes to clock management. Like, I don't know if Kirk is getting his tongue tied, just chomping on that gum the whole time. He just can't spit out the timeout, or what the deal is. But for some reason, there's issues with time management. So, yes, I'll agree with you there. And I don't want to tie up your line, Corey. The one thing I wanted to touch on, I think Drew Stevens did an awesome job tonight. I know you and I kind of went back and forth a couple of weeks ago after the Rutgers game. His boots were solid down the middle. He was on point. And the last question, and this one's kind of geared towards Matt, just as a fan, and it's kind of a 2-parter, Matt. First one is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a Hawkeye nerd and I follow recruiting, but didn't you come into Iowa out of Mount Vernon as a linebacker? Did you get transitioned to D-line, and how did that go with? Did Norm come to you and switch? Because I know Norm's notorious for that. Did he do that with you?
Kind of. I mean, I played linebacker, and we ran the wishbone offense in high school, so I was the fullback in that.
Oh, okay.
So I was running back and linebacker. And I didn't take long, man. They saw I wasn't the most fleet of foot to play Big Ten linebackers, so Coach Norm rolled up and says, "Hey, what do you think?" And I didn't hesitate, and I kind of knew it, and I had a great 4 guys to learn from on that D-line. It was Tyler Lukey, Jonathan Babineau, Derek Robinson, and Matt Roth. Were those 4. I mean, that's an all-world D-line. So I was very fortunate to redshirt, but was actually like probably number 6th or 7th guy. Unfortunately, none of those guys got hurt. So I was able to redshirt the whole year, learn from those guys, put on another 30, 35 pounds, and play Big Ten D-line play at a whopping 265 my first year. But, pretty quick transition. And you listen to those coaches when Coach Parker – Norm tells you to do something, you go do it. So that was kind of my way of doing it. Coach Moore going to tell you that I was maybe recruited to play center.
Well, you did in the NFL.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I should have started earlier, but literally there was no one else to play the D line, so I think they just threw me on there. And
okay.
Obviously fortunate enough to play 50 straight games, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just pretty quick transition for me from linebacker to D-line.
Well, that leads me to my last question. And Corey, Don, Matt, thank you for the time, but I'll leave you guys with this. Matt, we have a couple mutual acquaintances that I've talked to that in Tyler Nielsen. I think he's actually in the ag industry. I just happened to be talking with him, and also Pat Anger. I think these are two guys that were there when you were there as well. But they talked about the reverence that they had for both Kirk and for Norm Parker, and they spoke so highly of those guys. If you can just give us a quick take from player to fan, what is it that makes them such good guys or such good coaches to play for? And gentlemen, guys, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Vincent. Appreciate the time, sir.
Yeah, Vincent, we saw it in that the player video saying congratulations to coach for the win record. You saw, dozens of players all say the same thing, that he leads with honesty. He leads with a certain amount of trust, that he's going to lead you guys with I always use this with coach. It's a level attitude, like never too high, never too low, is going to be honest with you. And, it's so good to have a leader like that to lead us for 27 years. And to like I said early in this show, just to get 100+ guys on the same page, is a heck of a feat. So to have him, and then you got personalities like Norm Parker, who at that when I was there had been around the game for 40 years. So to have that wealth of knowledge from Coach Parker, you guys all know our defense. It's nothing, especially with Norm. It was nothing crazy. I mean, it was 90% of the time the same defense, but the little wrinkles that he could do on the back end or even in the front end, some of the games that we did as D linemen were just a simple scheme for us to learn. And we knew our assignment and we knew what to do. And that's what makes Iowa's defense great. And then just having a guy overseeing the whole ship, as in Coach Ferentz, is a special thing. And you saw every one of those guys that played for him in the past wish him congratulations. And we all know Iowa's in a great place, and Iowa's in a better place because of him. So yeah, that's I guess that's my answer to that question.
Good stuff. Matt Kroll, number 53. And I echo what was said here in the chat from Kyle, one of our premium members. Appreciate you joining, number 53. So, Matt, thank you for being here. You're going to be with us throughout the rest of the year. So we look forward to the rest of the season. You won't be with us next week, but moving forward, you can expect Matt with us. And next week's going to be fun. And you're not going to, it's not like you're going off into the Bahamas next week. You're going to be enjoying that one from
I think some old guys are in town. Mr. Adam Shada, you probably don't remember this name, Anton Narinsky. Pretty high recruit and a great teammate. One of the smartest dudes I ever met. He's going to be in town, and we'll be hanging out with Mitch King and I and all those guys. So we'll get together and hopefully watch a victory, and I'll be back the following week with you guys. So I appreciate having me on. Go watch Farms of America if you haven't, everybody. And Coach Patterson, good to finally meet you and talk to you. And I look forward to the rest of the season.
Great to meet you too, Matt.
Former Hawkeye defensive lineman Matt Kroll, New York Jet defensive lineman turned center offensive lineman Matt Kroll, and a big part of what Farms of America launched there in season 1. Check it out over on Reagan and Massey's YouTube channel. Matt, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right. Good stuff from Matt Kroll, former Hawkeye and all Big Ten defensive lineman Matt Kroll. Coach Patterson and I are with you for at least the next hour as we continue to talk about Iowa's 30-0 victory over the Wisconsin Badgers. What did I say? 30-0? 37-0. I'm discounting the 7 points there from Iowa. Don, am I being too hard on Iowa's clock management issues at the end of the half? You're going to have to calm me down later.
Well,
I just full
transparency. It doesn't
transparency.
bother me so much if we're up by, what was it, 27 and a half?
But you, Don, okay. These are the conversations that I express. Excuse me, the comments that I expressed to you in private.
It was just 23-0 at half, right?
It would not be an issue if it wasn't an issue regularly.
Right.
So I could overlook it in a blowout victory if it wasn't a microcosm of what I've seen in so many other games where Iowa mismanages late half and late game clock situations. I just, I don't want to belabor the point in a 37-point win, but I fear what was kind of alluded to earlier, that certain things, the coaches acknowledge this, right? Certain things that crop up in a 37-0 victory, you don't ignore those, because those could come back to bite you later in the season. Those things need to be corrected. To me, clock management's a big one.
Well, here's the truth, Corey. Those two heartbreaking losses, we had a chance late in both games to go win the game, or at least to put it in overtime. We were down 7 to Indiana, right? And I don't remember the exact numbers, but we had 75 yards to go, a minute and 42, maybe, I think, something like that, minute 48. Doesn't that sound right? I believe that's right.
Yeah, I believe about a minute and a half. If I recall, about a minute and a half with Indiana, maybe less than that with Iowa State.
Yeah, and as you know, we had 3rd and 5 on our first series of downs, and you asked me the question, wouldn't you have taken a timeout right then? And I said, well, that was not really clear cut, right? Because we still had about 90 seconds left. But here's the rest of the story. There wouldn't have been anything wrong with taking one right then. I agree. If only because it's not Mark Gronowski out there playing football.
Yeah.
We need to help the guy. He hadn't been in that spot very often. Let's burn a timeout, because if we can't convert on 3rd and 5 or 4th and 5, game's over anyway. We had 3 timeouts to use one, right? We didn't, but we converted. And then we got 4 new downs, and the bad news is we were 0 for 4, right? Game over. The point I did say, if I would have burned one on 3rd and 5, that would have left me with 2. I would have not taken one after the 1st down or 2nd down incompletion, because I wanted to have them for the failure on 3rd down, and have one to take prior to 3rd down and long, and then another one saved for the 4th down possibility that would follow. We should have been out of timeouts at the end of the game after we failed on 4th down. That should have been our last timeout before the 4th down attempt, right?
Right.
And I realize people are going to say, well, my God, we've been out of timeouts. How can we win the game? You got to save them, and you got to earn your downs anyway. And at some point, the clock becomes a factor because you're out of timeouts. And you want to get there. You got to get there first. We've gone down, the game's over. If you lose possession of the ball, it doesn't matter what happens next, because none of it's good.
Yeah.
So, as I said at the time, poor Hank's in deep water. We better help him. Let's take a timeout and let's talk about it. Surely to God we can come up with a good idea for what to run on 3rd and 10. And then after we fail there, let's take another timeout and decide what to do on 4th and 10.
Right.
You would have given us a better chance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, these are all things that, again, not a one-time occurrence. I don't expect anybody confines of Iowa football to listen to this show, but these are things that, man, I would think show up on tape. Right, Don? Are these the types of things that show up on game film, even in a 37-0 victory, where you look back and say, we got to do better, not just as a unit here or an individual, but as a staff, right? Aren't these things examined?
Yeah, even in a one-sided game, especially a one-sided win, it's easy to point out where we messed up, because you don't have to worry about destroying their confidence, because we just got through beating somebody 37-0. So the point is, I'm really proud of you guys for what you just did. Let's talk about how we can get even better. Let's zero in on what we did in this particular moment. And I've said this a lot, Corey, to players. I'm going to cover something now. The odds of it happening are not very good at all. But we're still going to talk about it, because it might happen once per season. And I don't want you to hear about it after the fact. We need to talk about it before it ever happens. Maybe we're talking about it in August. It doesn't happen until November. But at least you can draw back on what we talked about way back during camp.
All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. We got Trenton here with us, and then we got James up after Trenton. Trenton, thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you calling in.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen. Always great to beat Wisconsin. And Corey, here's what I'll say about the last the drive before the end of the first half.
Oh boy.
They started at their own 5. The fact that they even tried to do anything with that's what shocked me. That they used that as a time to actually work on a 2-minute drive. And that was actually a huge positive for me.
So you're okay with how they managed the end of the first
I'm
half?
not saying clock management. I'm just saying the fact that they even tried to do anything with that, starting at their own 5-yard line, already up 20-0. That's, we don't see
that's
that.
Like saying that's like saying I'm okay that my kid took a dump in the sand. He didn't take a dump in the bed. Like, what's the difference? Like, it's a fail regardless. You got to do better. I don't want to hear about this. Like, well, at least they did this. No, it's got to be better. It's got to be better.
I think we're talking two different things, I think, but like, I'm just saying, just separate the two things. The fact that they even tried to do anything with the football.
I understand.
Do you get where I'm coming from? Like,
I understand where you're coming from.
Clock management.
Our standard, our expectations for late half and late clock 2-minute offense situations are so low. And that's an issue. Like, they're so low that, people get mad when you're bringing it up when they're up 20, 30-0. Well, I'm going to bring it up because it's relevant and it is probably going to burn them at some point. And by the way, it has burned them. It has burned them. This year it burned them. Etc. Indiana 2 weeks ago it burned them. So
sure. Yeah,
what's frustrating too, can I just say this? Don, here's my frustration with clock management. The issue here too is you're coming out of a bye. So what I'd like to think is that during the bye, these things were addressed in full. And so then when you come out in the next game and it's not like you're up against the gun and you have tons of pressure because they're up 20-0. You'd think they'd be it doesn't seem like that was something that got addressed during the bye. I know that only so many things can get addressed during the bye week, but that's a point of frustration. Okay, I'm off my soapbox, Trent.
No, you're good, man. And then the only usually I call in. I don't know. I've been 50-50 all the time, I guess, but usually I'm pessimistic. But I'm going to tell you this right now, I guess. And Corey, I listen to you on Mark Rogers every Tuesday afternoon, right? Like, and I know you're halfway joking when you say Iowa could run the table after what happened. No, and like let's really sit back and think about it. Who's the toughest game left on Iowa's schedule? Because I think it's at USC right now.
I'd say Oregon is still really tough. And I
agree.
It's really tough. They're both really tough.
Yeah, it's a toss-up for me, but at least we got them at home now, right? Like, if Indiana is actually as good as what Indiana looks like they are, like, I don't know, man. Maybe. I don't know. The Iowa State loss to Colorado sucks today. Like, that's not a good look. But
that's an Iowa State team that could still end up 9-3, 10-2, and that loss ain't gonna hurt you. I mean, Iowa State would really have to tank. Look, there's going to be some people that still resent the fact that you bring it up and that I'm addressing it. But a 10-2 Iowa team is getting in. I don't care what Iowa State does the rest of the year because they're not going to go 0-6 the rest of the year. Indiana's not going to go like 10-2 gets you in because that would include a win against Oregon, a win against Penn State, a win at USC. That's my opinion. No 10-2 Big Ten team failed to get in last year. I don't think that would. Again, there's all these circumstances everywhere. But Don, Trenton's bringing up something that's. I have no shame in talking about it. Every game on the schedule left to this point is winnable. Not saying they'll win every game, but when you win 37-0 on the road, it's fair to have some optimism, right?
Correct.
Well, no, that's all I got for tonight, guys. Go Hawks. Hey, beat Wisconsin 37-0. Bring the Heartland Trophy home. Hey, I'll take it.
We all will. Thank you, Trent. Appreciate it.
Night, guys.
All right, boy, I see a lot of people in the chat who feel sorry for Wisconsin. Don, do you feel sorry for Wisconsin?
Not really, because they contributed to their predicament. I'll say that.
Yeah. And folks, I see the comments. Jack, thank you for thanking Matt. Again, we couldn't get to all the comments. We're limited with time. But just remember, folks, if you had a question for Matt, please bring it back to a future post-game show. We'll have him back for Minnesota. We'll have him back for Michigan State. We'll have him back for Nebraska. So Kyle wants to ask about linebacker grade. Apologize for not getting to that question, but please bring your questions back for future shows. I see Corey in the chat as well talking about favorite NFL stadium, toughest offensive lineman he faced. And then Charles also bringing up his 40 time. So again, all these questions, please bring those back up during our next show with Matt Kroll. Brian Bourne, thank you for being here with the super chat to the Matt NIL Fund. Appreciate that, Matt. Or excuse me, Brian. Appreciate that, Brian. And thanks for calling in earlier as well. James Douglas, thank you for the super sticker or super chat, whichever one. I can't tell on my end on this one. But thank you for being here, James. Appreciate you donating to the show. And before we continue to our next caller, we've got James, who's been very patient, and we appreciate James being here and for being so patient. A big shout out to Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team down in Des Moines. Of course, great auto insurance rates, but great insurance rates in general, whether you're talking homeowners, life, motorcycle, boat, whatever the case may be. See how Brad and his team can save you great amounts of money over at his team at State Farm in Des Moines. 515-256-6480 is the number. You can visit him in person, 4229 Fleur Drive in Des Moines, or online at www.bradvanmeter.com. Again, Brad Van Meter and his longtime State Farm team in Des Moines. Also, Iowa Smokehouse. If you want a better tasting snack for game day, or how about just any day, look no further than Iowa Smokehouse. They offer a full lineup sure to satisfy you and your family's snacking needs. Their thick and tender cuts of beef jerky, their flavorful meat sticks, their delicious steak bites, even their ketchup, their barbecue sauces. You'll never need to go anywhere else for game day. Tasting is believing. See how that's the case by visiting iowasmokehouse.com and use that code Hawkeyes, exclusive to this show, folks. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your Iowa Smokehouse order. You spend $50, you'll get free shipping in addition to the 15% off with that code Hawkeyes. Again, iowasmokehouse.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. All right. Also, let's see. Let's go to James. We'll go ahead and get to James, and we'll get to our next segment here in just a second. James, thank you for being so patient, sir. I know you've been on hold for a while.
My bad. I wasn't trying to be asshole earlier. I just get
good.
Second, first off, some of my questions were kind of already answered, but I have a kind of a point to the one of the questions, right? First off, time management, clock management. I put it in the thing right away because I've been here. I always chime in kind of how I see the game going, like in this chat, if that makes sense. And really, right when it happened, I said, why did we not take a time out there? And then I go to Twitter and see you say the same exact thing, right? So obviously I know we're on the same page, right, on that one. So obviously that question was answered. And then obviously, first off, I'll kind of go on the point of Mark not coming out because I was a big proponent of that. I said the same thing in the chat too of Mark coming out. First off, how many teams in the country, I have more questions with that, but how many teams in the country do you think leave their starter and up 30-0 in a game like that?
Yeah, I don't.
Once it hits 30.
Don, you and I are both getting ransacked by allergies.
Second part to that.
Yeah, I know. Real quick, James, just to address your first question. 30-0, I don't know why. Frankly, if it's 24-0, but Don, if it's 25 is a 4-possession game.
Right.
In the third quarter, what was your rule of thumb as a head coach as far as getting your starter out in those types of situations? Was there a hard and fast rule? I don't want you to try to dissect what was going on tonight specifically and when you would have taken Mark out, but what was your rule of thumb as a head coach?
Well, the thing that was even obvious in the first quarter, isn't it safe to say when you first had a chance to look at Mark in game conditions, what kind of percentage would you assign to him for how prepared he was to play. There's no way to say it's 100%, right?
I would have said like 60 or 70 was what I said because he couldn't really move very well. And he kind of ran slow. And then even the one he kind of ran, he's wincing after he ran on the first one. He ran to the side and kind of wincing a little bit. But
that was my point. So it's 23-0 at the half. Now I have no issue with him playing all the way through a good part of the third quarter. But we're up 30-0 at the end of 3. And we got 2 other quarterbacks that need to play because let's face it, Mark went into the Wisconsin game less than 100%. It's idiotic to get him injured in the fourth quarter. Let's not put him in that position. And we did, and thankfully it didn't come back to bite us, but it might have.
And that's another point to my second question was, look at who the backup quarterback was today. And I'm all for it being Jeremy Glinski, right? But how many snaps does Jeremy Glinski have, right? How many snaps? If he's your backup quarterback going forward, I don't know what their answer is, right? Whether it's Hank, whether it's Jeremy, right? Even if it's Hank, right? But especially if it's Jeremy, if he's your backup quarterback going forward, why do you not throw one screen pass with him the whole time, right? You could put him in the third, you could put him in the beginning of that fourth quarter and got a couple of passes under his belt, right? Did the same thing against Albany, and obviously, I understand they were beating Albany, but they ran. I think what did Hank do? Throw it twice the whole fourth quarter, right? And I know Albany's different than a Big Ten team, right? I'm not denying that, but I'm saying
One of
like
the games, I think Hank had maybe 6 pass attempts.
yeah.
I don't know if it was Albany or UMass. I can't remember that. Because we had to deal with this core. You remember people saying, well, the best quarterback's the one that came to the game late. No, he's not. That's why he's second team. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The backup quarterback's always the most popular because he never throws an incompletion.
I remember at Kids Day, people asking if there was a quarterback controversy.
Right.
And also, what's your thoughts on it being Hiklinski as the 2 and not Hank? That was more my big question. Is like seeing it be Jeremy and not Hank. Like you've seen Hank be the 2 the whole year, right? And then you've seen Hank get his reps, and then you. So on Twitter, somebody, I forgot who it was, but one of the guys, I think the document, some said it was like in reps, it was Mark, Jeremy, and then Hank, right, who got the reps. But like if it is Hank, you should have got him in there early, give him some throws, obviously. But what is your thought on it being Jeremy?
Well, truthfully, if there's a coin toss in terms of who deserves to be second, that's all the more reason to get Mark out so that we can take a look at both of them today. And Wisconsin's not going to be offended if we throw the ball on 3rd and 8. I mean, they understand we need to make a first down, so they shouldn't expect us to run the ball every snap.
Yeah, especially with a guy who probably doesn't have, I don't even know if Jeremy had any snaps at all at Wake Forest, right? But especially somebody who might not have any real snaps, right? Real time under his belt, right? If you give him a couple of throws in a game like that, and even if it's Wisconsin, who might be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, right? You're still getting some throws against Big Ten DBs, right? Or even guys who are good enough to be at that level at some point, right?
Well, my point of we played one against Indiana and another one against Wisconsin. That tells me that maybe there's some doubt as to who's 2 and who's 3.
Yeah.
So I wish we would have helped solve some of that by taking a look at both of them tonight.
For sure. But the defense overall played well. Obviously, you give up 0 points, you play good, right? And I don't think there's much there. The DBs, I think they got a little hands against some of them. One of them I thought was PI. Didn't call it, so I was like, I'll take it either way, right? But they didn't really throw downfield that much, right? I think they only had a couple of throws downfield, and I think they all defended it pretty well, with like super downfield, you know what I mean? Like they had some to the linebackers, but got past the linebackers. They really didn't have much. But overall, I felt like we did good. And the run game was good. Obviously, it's good to see Xavier Williams get 2 touchdowns, because he's young, and Nate made Nate look good when he looked good. But I'm happy to see Reese too. Reese Vander's being back is going to be a big piece, right, to the puzzle, and him getting a couple of receptions late in that game was good. But I just thought I'd get on here. That was my question is like, it was Hiklinski, not Brown. And that was kind of not surprising to me because I heard a lot of good things about Hiklinski from a lot of people. But just even more that was Hiklinski, why did we not put him in with a guy with no that guy has no reps at all, no even time in college football, right? So
remember, real quick, Don can attest to this, but during that bye week, you get extra work with some of those guys that aren't getting work earlier in the season. So I mean, reading between the lines, Don, it sounds like, or it looks like, I'm assuming that Jeremy Hiklinski made some headway once he got some time with, the 1/2s during that bye week when Mark wasn't practicing, right?
Right.
So I think Jeremy Hecklinski's, based on what I've heard and what I've been told, I think Jeremy Hecklinski might be the future at quarterback for Iowa. I say that with a grain of salt because, man, it's hard to predict who's going to be playing quarterback from year to year at Iowa, especially.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not upset to see Jeremy Hecklinski get some time in there. And hey, Hank's seen some time, so perhaps they like Jeremy. Getting him in there and having him. Did he throw the ball once, Don?
He threw a screen. He threw that screen pass that went like 5 yards. I think it was on 3rd down. They threw a screen, but
yeah. So I mean, I'm not learning anything from seeing that, but at least they got him in the game, and hey, he may be the guy coming in a situation if Mark goes down again. And right now, Mark's not 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
36. It was a play action bubble, actually. We faked to the right, the back crossing the formation, and then threw the ball out on a bubble behind the line of scrimmage. It's a screen pass, but it's a play action bubble, really, is what it was. Gained 2 yards, and the receiver was a guy I was not familiar with. I think it's Alex Eichmann. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
walk on, right? He's a walk on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Walk-on receiver who I believe I could be wrong on this, but I believe Eichmann was he on the depth chart a couple of years ago?
Yeah. When we got super thin at wide receiver, like super thin, we had like 3 scholarship wide receivers or whatever. He was on there, but one thing I want to give a shout out to, and I don't know how you guys felt like he played, and obviously I know him personally. I don't know where Corey's at, but I know him personally is Jaden Montgomery, right? Stepping into that role as a green dot on defense is not easy, right? Calling plays is not easy, right? Especially since it's Jaden Harrell who's been calling the plays, right? And I know they say Jaden Montgomery is very smart, right? Understands everything, right? But just to step in that role in a game, in a Big Ten game where you haven't had any snaps really as the green dot, right? Being out there and leading that defense, kind of helping them. And we pitched a shutout with him leading that defense. I think it's something that people aren't going to talk about enough either, but.
Yeah, Don, how impressive. We really haven't spent enough time talking about that defense. We talked extensively to start the show about the defensive line and Bryce Hawthorne and the big play he made and Aaron Graves, but just about the Parker's unit as a whole, how this pitch shutout on the road in the Big Ten.
I'm just looking here. Number 36. Is it Jaden? Is that right? I know it's Jerry's son.
Jaden Montgomery.
Yes. I have a lot of good memories of his dad. His dad was a really good player and an outstanding coach. But he had 3 total tackles. And in his defense, of course, they weren't out there for a lot of snaps. I think they were out there only for 56 snaps total. Wisconsin offense had 56 snaps, I recall. So he didn't have many chances, I don't believe. I didn't chart too many missed tackles. I don't recall 36 missing a tackle, but I'm not the good judge that the linebacker coach will be. Seth will give it a thorough investigation. You can bet on that, and he'll be able to point out the things that Jaden missed on. But I think it's safe to say he's paid his dues. He's very, very conscientious. He'll give us nothing but his best effort. And you can remember guys like that. That's how we've won through the years with guys that take the responsibility of being out there very seriously. I know Jaden does.
Yeah, and also making sure everybody's in the right spot as a guy who doesn't get the opportunity, right? Because that's usually Harold's job, right? If the green dot, making sure everybody's in the right spot, making sure players are right, is more what I was impressed with, right? Of somebody coming in who probably doesn't get as much practice with it either, right? He probably sees it by a scout team, right? But a scout team, that's not really our defense, right? Doesn't get a lot of practice with it, right? And out there doing it, make sure everybody's in the right spot, and I didn't really see many mistakes in the back end, right? So I think that was more impressive to me than even the tackle numbers, right? But
yeah, good stuff, James.
Yep, but I'll let you guys go and happy
I
to
was
win.
thinking like you. I wouldn't have minded us trying a long-range field goal there rather than taking the delay and punting. I say that. I don't know what the wind was doing. Maybe there was significant wind out of the south. I don't know.
No, I was just going to say happy to get a win against the rival. And the snaps and holds look good today. Obviously, Drew went 3 for 3, so that's always a plus, too. He has some struggles, and hopefully that whole group has had struggles, not just him, right? The snaps, the holds, kind of, have those struggles. So them going 3 for 3, making them all, hopefully that gives them confidence going into the rest of the weeks, right? But good to get a win against a rival, especially one like Wisconsin, who's a border for us, and they don't like us, we don't like them kind of thing. So it's always good. I'll let you guys go and enjoy your night.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you being here.
Yep.
And Nathan, I disagree respectfully. He says, dude, Corey, they got from like the 10 to field goal range in a minute. You're overblowing it. They did botch the last bit of it, in fairness, but we got the field goal we wanted. Again, I'm not specifically honing in on that issue. It's a microcosm of a bigger problem, Don.
Right.
Excuse me. Allergies are, boy, they're
I'm
out.
more concerned based on what happened against Indiana and what happened against Iowa State.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. All right. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Who's on the line?
All right. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse.
I can hear myself.
Hello.
Hello, you're on the air with Coach Patterson.
Oh, I really enjoyed listening to Matt Kroll because he's going to be a natural on a podcast. It looks to me like
he is a good one. He's a great Hawkeye,
Yeah.
and absolutely, he's a guy who's comfortable in front of a camera and a mic. Absolutely.
Right. And another thing, one of the things that I think we sometimes lose sight of is the amount of practice time that they have every week. They can only accomplish so much in there, and the 2-minute drill in the NFL, they've got a fair amount of time that they can do that, and so that toward the at the end of the first half, be running that's under game conditions, and I think probably Helinski got his chance because when you look at it, Hank got his a full quarter amount of time in the last game to see that. So, and the other thing is you got to keep players that are in there so that they don't think about, well, I'm not getting to get a chance here. I might enter the portal where I thought I could get some better chance there. So,
Don, your response to that comment about time you have in practice each week related to some of the issues we've discussed.
Well, I used to say, Corey, the longest month in the year is August because we got a lot of football practices in the month of August before we ever play a game. And then we get into the regular season, and as you know, the practices are limited time-wise, but we also have learned from what we did in August. That information, that knowledge should carry forward, of course.
and
There's a lot of practice time and getting ready to be good by mid-season. We've had a lot of chances to work on it and to get our bugs ironed out. Game 1's entirely different than Game 6.
I love hearing you twice, Don. Go ahead, caller.
Well, the only other thing is I believe that Kirk has not been around as long as he had if he was a micromanager. My philosophy always been, and I had some pretty high positions, was if you get the right people and you understand each other, you let them do their job, and don't be having them look over their shoulder all the time at what you're going to do.
Yeah, I agree, Don. You talked about that. You don't believe that Kirk is micromanaging the offense, which is a very common narrative of the average Iowa fan.
Absolutely not.
Day and age, yeah.
He's not.
No, we all agree on that, caller.
Average Iowa fan. Absolutely not. So we all agree on that.
The last thing, Corey, is I think having Don and Gary and now Matt on your shows, being on with the washed up walk-on guys, those are the best shows because they offer a perspective that you don't get on a lot of other podcasts where people are just spouting their opinion and not having some people that have lived the situation.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, between coach and Kasheen and Matt and Tyler.
Yeah, I forgot Kasheen.
Yeah, no, it's I appreciate that compliment. It's a very undeserved wealth of goodness and analysis. So we appreciate all of them. Thank you for calling in tonight, sir.
Good listening to you guys.
Take care. Have a good night. Thank you. Go Hawks. All right, good stuff. All right, before we get to, we've got a few other comments here before we wind things down. First of all, Don, do you want to run through my notes? We always do this, and you comment on some of my notes.
Okay.
So we'll start with first quarter. My first note is great play by Cohen Entringer. It was now I forget the down and distance, but I believe it was a third down. Cohen Entringer makes a big play midair on the receiver who bobbled the catch out of bounds. If Entringer doesn't hit him midair, that catch that then went under review probably is completed, and instead it was an incomplete pass. Really good play by Cohen Entringer. Then not shortly thereafter, Zach Lutmer and Xavier Wampa combine on a forced fumble that's then overturned and said it's not a fumble. I think it's probably the right call, although as I looked back at each view on television, I couldn't tell definitively if one of those knees was indeed down. I think it was. Obviously, the officials determined that it was.
Yeah, there wasn't much to reverse the call, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, but it is what it is there. 4th and 1, Wisconsin punts. Wisconsin didn't even wait for a review. I thought that was odd. Didn't even wait. They had a completion to make it 4th and 1 on that same drive.
It was 3rd and 8. They hit an out route for 7.
And they didn't even wait or challenge or do anything. They just sent the punt unit out there.
Yeah.
I thought that was an early indication of a bit of a defeatist attitude, Don.
Yeah. You're right.
And then let's see, Weegan, that's the same that following play. Weegan doesn't call for the fair catch, escapes, and he doesn't pay for it.
He thinks he's Tim Dwight.
He thinks he's Tim Dwight. Iowa then has a really good drive, ends in a field goal. Hayden Large had a brilliant one-handed catch that was called incomplete, and they didn't review that either. I guess it hit the ground. Don, did you have a better look at that?
I was just noticing his body language. He wasn't that upset.
Right. He must have known it hit the ground.
Yeah, I think he understood maybe why they ruled against him.
Yeah, not long after Brian Allen got a deflection, Bryce Hawthorne, brilliant interception. Right before that play happened, I made the comment to some of my friends I was watching the game with. I said, man, I want to see more from Bryce Hawthorne. It was the very next play that he catches that interception off the deflection. Nice job tracking the ball in the air, Don, right, from the big man on the interior of that defensive line, who, by the way, transferred in with Mark Gronowski from South Dakota State. Great Sam Phillips catch on a slant where he had to come back for the ball, thrown a little bit behind him.
Let's brag on McNeil, too. You know, he had that 24-yard run right in it about now. And as he's demonstrated before, he's got a bright future.
Offsetting penalties, but that play stood because I believe the penalties were after the play, correct, Don? Those offsetting penalties were after.
Dead ball, yeah.
Had a Kamari Moulton rushing touchdown, and what a play from Aaron Graves, that interception. Let's brag on that a little bit more, Don. That was a big play of the day. That's a play that'll get you out of your seat, right, Don? 35
Yeah,
yards.
it was supposed to be a quick screen. You know, they had a back on the right side that was going left, and they pulled the ball to throw the quick screen at her on the backside. And I don't know, it must have been a line game because everyone, of course, lined up inside, but was looking more to the outside and happened to loop right into the throwing lane. And the average D lineman would have probably muffed the pass and not nearly looked as athletic as our guy did. Aaron looked like he knew what to do. He made a nice effort to get in the end zone. It was about the 1/2 yard line, as I recall.
Yeah, phenomenal play. I thought he got in, but it was overturned called back to the half-yard line. Looked like that knee was down just short of the goal line. But yeah, big play of the day. Aaron Graves and his 35-yard interception return to the Wisconsin 1, which then led to a Mark Gronowski QB sneak for a touchdown to end the first quarter. Second quarter, another stupid execution from, and I don't know who to blame on that, but they throw a backwards pass.
Yeah, wasn't meant to be, of course.
Okay, it wasn't. Right. Recovered by Zach Lutmer. So what happened on that play from a mistake standpoint, and then the hustle from Zach Lutmer and that Iowa defense to get on that ball?
I do recall, I don't even remember who, but the quarterback did have a little pressure on him. And as a result, now we said it was backward. The TV copy it wasn't very conclusive, but there's a wing official, of course, that had a good look at it. And he was pretty confident it was backward. I certainly knew it might be. And the replay was kind of hard to tell. Looked like it went slightly backward. But to our guys' credit, they jumped on it. And of course, the point is, if you're playing defense, you're going to sell it, whether it's a backward pass or not. Let's let the officials figure it out. But you should absolutely play it as if it's a backward, if it's a line ball. And we did.
Absolutely. And it did look like on the initial copy, Don, it did appear to me that it was a backwards pass.
I think so, too.
I think we both saw the same thing when the play initially happened. Yeah, that was the third turnover of the game for that quarterback. So it was snowballing at that point. I made the comment, very conservative play on a 3rd and 4. Iowa runs the ball, settles for a field goal. Just conservative play calling on the road, Don?
Yeah, it was, you mean to make 20, right? That was early second quarter.
Yep.
Yeah, we were 3rd and goal at the 6. We ran for -1. I don't remember what the play was. Field goal followed to make 20. Here's the thing I'm thinking about at the time. As you know, 17 and 20 aren't very different. They're
right.
both 3 scores, right?
Right.
Now, 20 to make 20, of course, you're going to be 3 touchdowns. But it's still doable is the point.
Right.
Unless you're playing Wisconsin and you're Iowa. And then, didn't you feel this way, Corey? We could have played another 60 minutes, and I'm not sure that even then Wisconsin would have scored.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Yeah, absolutely. And then the squib field goal, Don, or the squib kick, I should say. What do you think about that decision? Where does that come from? Decision to squib a kick? They had the short field because of the penalty, but it didn't really work out because Wisconsin got the ball, I think, the 33 or 34 yard line.
Yeah, they filled it pretty quick. I don't know what I don't know what to do with that spot. Most teams would just go ahead and drive the ball out of the end zone and be done with it.
Right.
Other teams might try some kind of bloop kick into a vacated area and try to race down the field and play it.
Was that what Iowa was doing with the squib kick?
I'm assuming the spin kick was supposed to be designed to hit someone and then take a crazy bounce somewhere, but it didn't happen that way, did it? They were surprised they had such good field position afterward.
How about the Wisconsin 4th and 1, where I believe it was the Wisconsin tight end that just drops the ball wide open, just drops.
I know it, and it was a well-conceived play.
It was.
It looked like it was going to go for a while too.
Yeah, I have the note: bad clock management from Iowa late in the half, and then of course the second half was a runaway. Great ground game to start that third quarter. Xavier Williams with a pair of rushing touchdowns. I have the 3rd and 5 delay game at the Wisconsin 39 noted. You mentioned that earlier. I don't know the win situation. I'm thinking to myself, why not send Drew out for a field goal? Why, what's the point of punting? You're up that amount. Why not give Drew a 54, 55-yard field goal or 57-yard field goal, whatever? He's got the leg, Don. That's not an issue. Distance is not an issue for Drew Stevens inside of 60.
Right.
But they take the delay game and punt. Were you at all questioning that when it occurred initially?
Oh, not based on the lead we had and how inept Wisconsin was. I would have preferred to see the field goal attempt.
Okay.
But as we know, one negative, if you miss, then the ball's in pretty good field position for them.
Right.
I don't remember what happened on the punt. It was just okay.
He was fielded at like maybe the 15-yard line somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay, folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take one final about 60-second break, and then we'll be back with our final segment with Coach Don Patterson and I believe our final caller of the night, unless we have any more calls. We're in hour 3 of Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson following Iowa's 37-0 victory in Madison. We'll be right back.
Introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their tough core, click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com, or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant.
We traveled 30,000 miles across the U.S. to ask one question. How does the American farmer make a living?
Sorry.
Really great stuff, captivating stuff. If you haven't checked out Farms of America, visit Farms of America over at the Reagan and Massey's YouTube channel. It's linked in our description, and you can watch our good friend Matt Kroll, former Hawkeye Matt Kroll, and his awesome story, the farm story of the Kroll family. Again, Reagan and Massey on YouTube, as we are continuing our discussion regarding Iowa's 37-0 victory over the Wisconsin Badgers here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. But again, we are very thankful for both Farms of America and Iowa Floor Covering for sponsoring our coverage. All right, let's go back to what I believe will be our final caller of the night, unless we have someone else that calls in, and then we'll run quick fire on our chat as we always do. We've got Corey here with us. Corey, I have to give you some credit, some kudos, some props, Corey, because I think it may be the first time I saw you criticize Kirk Ferentz on Twitter. Maybe indirectly, but you were critical of your man, Kirk Ferentz.
Well, Corey, great show, by the way.
Real quick, in a 37-0 victory, mind you.
Yeah, great show, by the way. And I love KF to death, but he's a human being with flaws. And one of his flaws is, he's been victim of his own poor clock management more than once. And it was just making me crazy because we had to rush that third down play. If I remember right, it was third down, and there was no need for it. We could have called a timeout and gotten organized and had plenty of time. That was just really odd. I was like, why isn't anybody doing anything? As far as calling the timeout. But that said, I'm pretty grateful to be a Hawkeye fan. I look around, I see Wisconsin struggling, and they've got a playoff coach, took Cincinnati to the 4-team playoff. I mean, not this expanded stuff. And, you got PJ Fleck that was supposed to be so great. He comes into Minnesota and hasn't really done much. And you've got Matt Rule. It's year 3. This is the year that Everybody says that he flips programs in 3 years. Well, let's see. He almost got bit tonight, and you look at some of the other coaches that have come in, and it's not easy to win in the Big Ten, and yet Kirk does it consistently, and I just I'm just grateful that I'm not one of those fans that has to deal with what they're going through in Wisconsin. What's interesting though is I I got in on a couple of Wisconsin uh, podcasts, just peeking at what the what the mood is over there, what the tone is, and I was seeing some stuff that I was kind of impressed. Barry Alvarez standing up for Luke Fickle, saying he's a good coach, and if you want to boo the team, why don't you get your butts out of here and go to the bar if you want to boo? And so that's an interesting
Real quick,
sentiment.
is that what he said tonight?
No, not tonight, but this is something that someone was talking about him having said about fans that they're spoiled.
I think
And
that's
that,
real quick. I think that's very dangerous verbiage from Barry Alvarez. I think that's
yeah,
very dangerous what he's saying. And Don, I know you and Barry go way back.
Right.
I don't know that that's an exact quote from Barry, but if he's saying that fans should just go to the bar if they're going to, that you got to listen to your fans, Don, to some extent, right? And have a little bit of grace there.
Yeah.
They're frustrated, and there's reason to be frustrated given where they were before they made a change and where they are now. And that's a risk you take as an administration, but you got to
Yeah,
have.
they're invested.
yeah,
What it costs for a family of four to go to the game.
yeah, and but I do like the AD supporting his coach, standing up for him. But yeah, you don't want to go the route of being an antagonist towards the fans, or not an antagonist, but where you're not showing some sort of sympathy or empathy towards the fans, for sure. Um, but anyway, getting back to the positives, I just felt like, I don't know what you guys thought, but it just looked to me like the defensive backs were not tested near as much tonight, but that coverage it's tightening up, and it looks better. Don, from the few targets of those Wisconsin receivers on those deeper balls, would you say there's noticeable improvement?
Well, the thing that surprised me, I thought that number 15 a week ago against Michigan to go to the big house, I thought he played pretty well for a guy that hadn't played. I thought he did okay. He was 18 for 29 for 177 yards. I think, considering he went into a hostile environment and performed that well, I was concerned that he might play well in Cam Randall tonight, but he didn't, and I know he had a lot to do with that. What made all the difference in the world, though, was turning the ball over early, getting the jump on the. I thought it was critical that we get off to a good start, and I couldn't have hoped for a better start than what we had. So that really took the fire out of the crowd, I think. What little confidence they had was pretty much exhausted after that 17-0 start, after less than a quarter. Think about it, we played 14 minutes and they were down 17 points. Not good.
Yeah, and then you look at the what seemed to be a vulnerability in the Iowa special teams on the kicking standpoint last game, and it looks like they've also improved that. Looks like they've really dialed that in. That looked like a polished kicking game, did it not? Do you?
Yeah, it seemed to me. I mean, the kicks were more down the middle, and I don't recall any snaps that were poor by any means. They all seemed to be at least adequate.
Now, the only, I guess, one item of concern was that got to be a close call on one of those punts. It got the blocking still showed a
Yeah.
little bit of vulnerability there. We're playing these bigger opponents coming up. So I don't know if we had a grade C on special teams last game. I'd say we bumped it up to a B or so. Wouldn't you say?
Well, if you watched the Oregon-Indiana game today, there was a time when Indiana had to punt. I think they were maybe on the -4 or 5. The punter was deep in the end zone, and the game was very much in doubt, of course. And I give him credit. You heard me talk before, Corey, about get off. That was just the expression we used. We just tell Reggie, this is all about get off. That means catch it, get rid of it. And we realize it might not be your best punt, but we can't risk you examining the football before you punt it. And the one we had blocked back in time, you might recall, Reese spun the ball, and he actually flipped the ball from one end to the other end before he kicked it. And it was a protection problem for sure, but I do recall measuring his snap to punt time, and it was 2.02, maybe slightly over 2.0. 2.0 used to be thought of as the limit. You had to be at least that fast, if not faster, to get the ball out. So my point is, Indiana, I don't doubt on that particular punt, Indiana had it out in about 1.8, I bet. There's no way they were going to block that punt, simply because he did a good job of getting the ball out right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't win by association, but you look at Indiana beating us by 5 and beating Oregon by 10, and it could have been possibly more. But I just, as Corey somewhat keeps beating that drum of it's still possible. They run the table. They are in, but there's
I like how I was the enemy of the state last week when I said that, and now because Oregon's lost and Penn State's lost 2 in a row and Iowa won 37-0, and all of a sudden, oh, Corey's right. Next week when Iowa loses to Penn State, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if Iowa were to lose to Penn State, everybody will be mad again. But yeah, I mean, it's just the reality of it. Everything's still in front of them. Everything is still in front of them. That's the great thing about the expanded playoff, right, Don?
Yeah, that's true.
10-2 teams have a chance to win a national title, whether you want to laugh at that or not.
Still bugs me that the top 4 teams get a bye, but anyway.
Yeah, I understand. Go to 16 or stay at 8. I get it. But no, Corey, absolutely reason for optimism. And hey, they go beat Penn State next week. It's going to be a rocking Kinnick Stadium. It's going to be a tough game. I don't care if Drew Aller's playing or not. There's a lot of talent on that Penn State roster, and they have not played well these last 2 weeks. There was a comment in the chat here from someone a little bit ago. Let's see if I can find the comment. I don't know that I have it now. But the question was basically, does Penn State get up for this game? Are they playing now for the staff? I would venture to say it's more likely that Franklin has lost that bunch, Don. I don't think do you transition from like, oh, he's lost us to now, oh, we've lost 3 games. We got to start playing for our coach. I don't see a turnaround that quickly, in the locker room, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. One concern I do have, we used to use the analogy, a team with its back against the wall is a little bit like an animal that's been cornered.
Yeah.
What does an animal do? It starts fighting, comes out swinging. So we better prepare for the possibility that we'll see an inspired Penn State that's simply going to set the record straight. This was an aberration. This should have never happened. Now, without their quarterback, that'll be a tougher challenge. But I think you'll probably agree with me, Corey. I never did see Drew Aller. I would certainly give more credit to Indiana's quarterback, Mendoza, than Drew Aller. I think Mendoza has a lot to do with Indiana winning. Drew Aller, not quite so much.
Yeah.
He's got a good supporting cast.
Certainly not this year,
Right.
without question.
Yeah, and getting, since we're on quarterbacks here, so did we get an actual diagnosis on what the actual injury was on Mark Gronowski, and
It was
what
just
can we get?
It was a sprain of some sort.
Yeah, from what I know, it was a knee sprain.
Yeah, sprained MCL, or I don't know exactly the diagnosis. Kirk never divulged that.
But he was definitely compromised, and the concern, moving forward is we really could use him at his best, and how much progress can he make in another week.
Well, let me say this. We'll never know, but just for the sake of argument, the way our defense controlled Wisconsin tonight, and the fact that they were two on turnovers, we knew all that before they knew. It would have been easy to have a pretty high level of confidence we'd win, even if we had to sit Mark. Wouldn't you say, Corey? I think we'd have beaten them with one of the other guys taking snaps too.
Yes. I made that comment pre-game, I should say, that I thought, hey, if they're better off sitting Mark Gronowski for this game because they can win with Hank Brown or Jeremy Eklinski, so be it. That's why I was so surprised, and I don't want to say disturbed, but play him so late into the game when you're up 30-0. I don't get it. But
and Mark was clearly less than 100%, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the numbers say that, whether you want to look at the eye test or not. The numbers, from a ground standpoint, indicate that he was limited because of his injury. And I don't want Mark Gronowski to be limited, Don. I want him to be full speed because that's when he's best. That's
right.
What makes him a really good quarterback is his ability to run. This is the first time, Corey, that I'm sitting here talking about Iowa having a really good quarterback. I think they have a really good quarterback. If he's healthy, he's really good. I think he's as good, if not better, than 2019 Nate Stanley. I think he's that good. And it's just frustrating. I know you're a huge Kirk fan, as am I in some regard, right? I try to be down the middle objective, but I am frustrated that he was kept in the game so late. Hopefully that doesn't bite them down the line. You would think less snaps, less wear and tear, Don, would be a good thing for his recovery tomorrow, heading into next week, Don. But you've worked with a lot of quarterbacks over the years, maybe guys who have dealt with injuries. What say you?
Well, there was that play. I think it was pretty late in the third quarter, maybe early fourth quarter. I can't remember. We was being pursued from behind and then get tackled from behind, right? And I was concerned on that play because he was more susceptible to injury than he would have been 2 weeks ago before he was injured. Thankfully, he wasn't. He got up without any issue. But I was holding my breath because I wasn't sure that would be the case.
Yeah, that play where he was running around the left side and got caught. I cringed. I thought, oh no, that doesn't look good. And fortunately, it seemed to work out. But I had one more curveball for you, Don. So I think a caller had mentioned quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, letting them get in there so that they, give them a little bit of hope so that they feel like, hey, there's a chance I might get to play by getting them in there in some of these types of games. I've got a different angle or curveball to throw at you here. Have you ever seen it where you've, by putting those backup quarterbacks in there, it's somewhat of a sobering experience for them to the point where they start to say, yeah, I'm not going to complain about playing time. I've got more to learn and figure out here before I'm ready for the big stage.
Well, I think, you shouldn't try to run until you learn how to walk. And if they've never played in a college game, then obviously you give them a small dose of big time football the first time they're out there. You don't ask too much of them. Try to keep it simple. Just be able to give them a little bit of confidence that they can get it done. So you don't give them some tough assignments. You don't want them to fail, obviously. So you call plays that you feel give them a good chance for success. And by doing that with good, intelligent play calling, they can develop their confidence and you can correct their mistakes and they can learn from each other's mistakes. And that's how they get better. It's a teaching experience each and every time.
But would you say that maybe by them getting out there and getting a taste of it, even a small taste, they can kind of see that, sometimes people get a little bit of a bigger head about themselves and they think they're ready for all this. And then they get out there and they kind of realize, oh, wow, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And so maybe that sobers them a little bit and causes them to maybe change their mindset and be a little bit more patient and not so uh, impatient about getting playing time.
It depends on how they perform. Obviously, if they perform well and they have some fairly difficult assignments, let me give you an example. The quarterback's back to throw, can't find an open receiver, but he does a good job of scrambling. And now he's going down the field and he makes a guy miss, and then another guy missed. The next thing you know, he's gained 20 yards. Well, that's an impressive play for a quarterback because they're not paid to be elusive runners, and yet he just demonstrated that he was a pretty good runner. So obviously, that would maybe fit into that description you're saying, where maybe he's duped into thinking he's better than he really is. I don't mind guys gaining confidence with how they perform. You still don't want to overload them with too much mentally to do. You don't want them to look foolish out there, so you call plays that you know they can execute. And your hope is that they gain confidence with the way they execute in those plays. They're still not the same level of pressure as if the game's tied up, obviously. Playing when it's 37-0 is not nearly the same as playing when it's a one-score game. But the bottom line still counts for something. You got to walk before you can run.
Yeah, and I guess I'll end with this. I think about some of these defenses that I was going to face that are, faster. They might tend to try to over pursue at times. And I look at some of Iowa's big wins, and we usually took advantage of teams over pursuit or over aggressiveness with like an Akram Wadley, versus Michigan, is a good example, I guess. And what's your thoughts on what do you think Iowa's best weapon to use in some of these blitz schemes, some of these strong pursuit defenses that we might face? Who's the X factor? Looks to me like they're trying to really work hard to get Weegan in as that X factor, that outlet that can make something happen through a screen pass. And can you specifically um, can you go over that play where they took Weegan? Was that just a straight, quick slant where he was lined up on the left side and he ran this slant and they threw it to him basically right over the center? and then
No,
he's
that's
running at an angle.
middle screen.
Yeah.
We had
Okay,
linemen out
middle
in front.
screen.
Yeah.
That there was just an army of blockers, and it looked like we didn't get everything blocked perfectly, but it looked like if we hit those blocks right, he may be gone.
It's a little bit the equivalent of a punt return, right? He's got the ball with blockers out in front.
Yeah, and I guess, if you're the coach, if you're the offensive coordinator, is that kind of what you're thinking? Is Weejan's the guy to to get the only other ones I can think of would be like maybe a McNeil. He's kind of quick like that. I
Yeah,
thought TJ Washington was gonna be that guy. He's been decent, but
you mentioned
um,
mentioned pressure, Corey. The typical pressure package involves man coverage, right? And Corey, our host, has heard me say many, many times, against those teams, you have to scare them out of playing that way. You got to attack them. You got to have man beaters. When I say man beaters, Corey, understand this: if they're going to pressure and play man, if they're going to play 6 and defend with 5, that's pressure, right? All you're looking for is matchups, the best matchup. And don't just look into the best matchup. Maybe you do look into it, but a smart quarterback recognizes here's the best matchup. Let me give you an example. Today you saw Indiana. Here's a shocker. When push came to shove and it became really important to give it to somebody to make a play, who'd they throw it to, Corey?
13.
They're all big
13.
receiver.
That's right. He's their guy, right? So you want to look for the guys that can handle the pressure of the moment, and you want to look for the best mismatch you can find. And let's face it, Surratt versus Surratt or Surratt. I think they call it Surratt.
Surratt, yeah.
Whatever. He's the guy that matches up well against just about everyone. And that's who they go to.
Yeah, one of my bosses is an Indiana Hoosier fan, and he sends me a picture of his index finger pointing at the logo on his shirt every game now. But I told him, I said, you guys are just spoiled Surratten.
Surratt.
So
Let me make this comment since we're on Indiana, the subject of Indiana. Corey, I don't think you're even aware of this. Are you aware the quarterback coach in Indiana? You know who he is? I bet you don't. You wouldn't. You shouldn't.
No.
Well, what would you say if I told you I coached him?
Let's see. Who would this be? Who is the QB's coach at Indiana?
He's a guy named Chandler Whitmer.
Okay.
He was a starting quarterback for UConn.
Oh, okay. All right.
11 years ago, and I coached Chandler.
Okay, I recognize the name.
And I can't take credit for his development as a coach, but I did coach him. And I'm proud to say that. I did tell him recently, somebody came up, I forget how, but I let him know, I'm proud to say that I coached you back in 2014, and I'm proud to know you're doing well in coaching your quarterbacks too. And I do think he's a good quarterback coach. Incidentally, I believe officially he's the co-offensive coordinator. Got that title too. Chandler in recent years he's been about 4 years in the NFL. Of course, when he got there, he didn't have much responsibility, but that's how you learn.
Right.
And now he's more than capable. Let's face it. I will say this about Mendoza. He played really well a year ago at Cal. So I can't give Chandler all the credit for Mendoza and his development because he developed, of course, in the early years at Cal too. But he is playing at a high level, and certainly Chandler gets some credit for that.
Folks, a reminder that we are sponsored this evening by Big Grove Brewery. They are the official watch party headquarters of the Hawkeyes and is an official craft brewery of Iowa. The Hawkeyes, they bring you the ultimate game watching experience with their favorites, the Easy Eddie, their Citrus Surfer, their neighborhood beer. all while you're cheering on the Hawks, whether it be in Iowa City at their Des Moines location, recently opened in Omaha, got a location in Solon as well, Cedar Rapids. And, of course, you can always enjoy the game at home with their famous Easy Eddie. All refreshing, all great. Big Grove Brewery and all the convenient locations. Coach and I will be live at Big Grove Brewery this coming Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time. Join us, whether you're online or you're in person. If you're in the Iowa City, Coralville, or surrounding area, join us. Kind of a short notice schedule here, but we appreciate Big Grove for accommodating us this coming Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, for a special Penn State Week edition of Hawkeye Hangout with yours truly and Coach Don Patterson. Again, live at Big Grove Brewery this coming Monday, October 13th at 6 p.m. Central Time. So join us. Don, that's tomorrow.
It is Sunday, isn't it?
Tomorrow. We'll be live at Big Grove Brewery.
In the madness, Corey, you remember I mentioned there were 9 conference games this weekend. That's the max, right? Well, one of them's been done. Analytics on one game have been done. That's the game that was played on Friday night.
Yes.
I've got 8 games to do, and we might be signing off, but I've got a couple hours of work still ahead of me.
Well, we're winding down here. And, of course, folks, if you're winding down as well, be sure you get your purchases in to RTI Threads. Of course, they sponsored our player of the game tonight as well. But you can shop the official apparel lines of Aaron Graves, Zach Lutmer, Jacob Gill, Carson Shire, all great athletes. And again, you can find them over at rtithreads.com/NIL. Again, rtithreads.com/NIL. I am wearing the Zach Lutmer shirt tonight. Boy, that guy made some plays tonight, didn't he, Don? He seems to be getting more and more confident. Of course, you're going to, as you get older and you get more snaps. But I know the comment was mentioned in the chat about Wampa. But Lutmer and Wampa and Entringer all seem to be really thriving right now in that Phil Parker room.
Yeah, those guys are solid players.
Shane brings up Xavier Wampa. He says, I'm not sure he's played up to the 5-star ranking, but Shane believes he's going to be a top 3-round pick in the NFL draft.
Good luck trying to predict what's going to happen with the draft. I do think, most importantly, he'll have a chance to make a team. I say that. On the positive side, he might be drafted in the 2nd round. On the negative side, he might end up as a free agent. Yeah. But I do think he has an excellent chance to be drafted somewhere in the draft. And the good news about the draft, you only need one team to really like you that much, right? Maybe you're drafted in the 3rd round. Other people say, I wouldn't have drafted him at all. Well, that's okay, because one team believed in you. Now go out and make them right. I remember the story about Tom Brady. That's a great story. When he told the Patriots, he said, I'm going to make you look really smart with your decision to bring me to your team. And he did. He absolutely did. So that's the mentality every player should have. That's what Purdy did for the 49ers. He made them look really, really smart to take him. And incidentally, the tough question, I don't know what happened today with Rocco, but for an Iowa State fan, and Corey, I texted you, of course. Right now, imagine they're in the same class at Iowa State. Which one's your starting quarterback?
Well, after today, I don't know, but I would have said Rocco before today. It doesn't sound like he played very well today, but yeah, I would have taken Rocco in college. I don't know if that'll translate over to the NFL, but maybe I'm biased because I've seen Rocco beat Iowa a couple of times, and I didn't see Purdy beat Iowa once.
Right. And so complicated. Purdy's played pretty darn well for the 49ers.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Sam, thank you for being a premium subscriber. Please hit that like button, follow in Sam's footsteps. YouTube Sucks says, I thought Corey was crazy talking about playoffs, but he may actually be a genius. I'm not a genius. I promise that. He adds, does Fickle and or Franklin get fired this week? I'll say no. I don't think either one.
No, too.
Yeah, I don't think
I'd be surprised if either one did.
Yep. James Douglas says 10-3. Will that be enough if they lose in the Big Ten championship? Ooh, that's an interesting scenario, Don. If they go 10-2 and lose in the Big Ten title, do they get in?
Here's what I'll hope for. We go 10-2 and we don't make that game.
I agree. It's better for their playoff chances, Don, if they go 10-2 and don't make it. The problem is if they go 10-2, they might make it. I can't believe I'm saying that's a problem, but that might be the case because that'd be one loss in the Big Ten.
Well, tell me this, Corey. I forget. Do Oregon and Ohio State play each other?
No.
I didn't think so. I'd say they're still the most logical to meet in Indianapolis.
Right. Although Oregon did lose today, Don.
You're right. And to be honest with you, well, let's not forget about Indiana. My gosh.
Yeah, Indiana does play at Penn State, but all of a sudden that game doesn't look nearly as daunting. Their schedule, now that they've gotten Don, they made it past the Illinois, Iowa, Oregon stretch. Now all of a sudden their schedule is looking pretty reasonable. I mean, we're talking about a team that could they go 12-0? I don't think they will. I think they'll trip up somewhere because I don't think they're. I didn't watch the game today. I got to go back and watch Indiana, Oregon, but
it was impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive to do that in Eugene.
Let's say this. I don't think they would have played so well today were it not for the fact that they played in Kinnick 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a good preparation.
And they had a bye week as well
Yep.
last week. Let's see. Shane says, I saw Yosei Epinesa got in late. First action of the year. I believe so. I don't have a.
I'm not sure, but I
that.
don't know otherwise.
Yep. Shane also brings up Vanderzee. He says, Vanderzee makes me think of Ed Hinkle. He definitely has the most reliable hands on this year's team. Ooh.
To my knowledge, tonight, 3 opportunities, 3 catches.
Yeah, but to say that he definitely has the best hands on the team, that might be a bit premature, Don, because this was his first game back.
I would say it's a little bit early to say that because last time I checked, number 5 and number 2 and number 6 have all caught the ball pretty well.
Yeah, they've all had drops, too. Those guys have all had drops, but they've also had more opportunities at drops. So,
right.
Lynn Tullis, thank you for reminding everybody to hit that like button, and thank you for complimenting us. We do very much appreciate it. Spot, same thing. Thank you for being here. Cyhawk C Money, that's Corey. Thank you for being here as well. And yeah, Don, I think that's it. Our RTI Threads player of the game tonight, as I mentioned earlier, if you missed it, Kamari Moulton, 15 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown, along with 3 receptions for 29 yards. Don, it might be I'd get to go back and look at the stats from last year. It might be his best performance of his young career. Certainly his best performance this year. Good to see coming off injury in August. Anything final to say on our RTI Threads player of the game, Kamari Moulton?
No, I just like the way he plays. He plays an intelligent game. He very seldom makes bad decisions about where to run. He seems to have good ball security. Knock on wood as I say that, because we don't want to jinx him. He's just a savvy ball player and makes very few mistakes.
And they will need him because that's a room that's been dealing with attrition, given some injuries to Terrell Washington, Jazz Patterson, etc.
Let's give Xavier credit for looking pretty darn good today.
We could have went with Xavier Williams as our player of the game because he was really good down the stretch of this game as well. Both of those guys, Don, stepped up big. And when McNeil's number was called, he made a couple of really nice plays as well. He's got to get a little bit bigger, I think. That's something Akram Wadley always struggled with was weight.
Yeah.
But, boy, McNeil's slippery. He's got some to zig to his zag, Don. But
he's got good vision, good change of direction, good speed.
Absolutely. The Hawkeyes defeating Wisconsin 37-0 tonight, and we will be back with you live on Monday talking about Penn State, so we won't spend a lot of time here tonight talking about it. If you're interested in joining our Discord, you can do so. Just follow the instructions on the bottom ticker. Donate via PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Label your donation Discord. It's $5 a month or $50 for an entire year. We want to thank Iowa Smokehouse for bringing us the phone line tonight and for sponsoring our show. Same thing with Big Grove Brewery, where we will be on Monday. Also RTI Threads, of course, Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team, and Iowa Floor Covering, Farms of America, everybody that makes this show happen. Of course, Don Patterson, Matt Kroll, Folks, we'll be back with you Monday talking Iowa Penn State. Don, it's been a fun 3 hours as always. We'll talk to you in about 36 hours over at Big Grove Brewery there in Iowa City.
I look forward to it, Corey.
All right, folks, for Matt Kroll, I'm Corey Bratta. That's Coach John Patterson. We'll see you live at Big Grove Brewery Monday night, 6 p.m. Central Time. We'll talk to you soon.